qualifying for Sunday's EA Sports 500. The fastest racetrack in the world plays host to NASCAR's Winston Cup cars and drivers. And the starting grid is rather sparse as the inspection line is pretty long, but there at the head of it is one of the fastest men in practice, appropriately, an added video gamer. He's with Dave Burns.
He is here. His car is here too, Mike, so that's a good sign. One pole at this place in the spring of 1998. Bobby, you practiced ninth. Is it possible to get your second one today?
Well, that was a good run for us. A couple of guys that went faster than us on the first or second spot. I can't remember who they were now, but they were quite a bit faster, so I don't know if they had help or not. But our guys have done a great job on these restrictor plate race cars, and this Interstate Battery Chevrolet is pretty good this morning. So, we'll have to see. You never know, but we're going out first. At least we'll have a chance to watch for a long period of time.
He will have a lot of guys to watch after and see if that time holds. To Matt Yoakum.
Dave, a serious contender for the pole today is Elliott Sadler, second quick in the practice session. The first guy was Jimmy Johnson. He goes 43 cars after you. So is it big advantage for him, or not so?
Well, we kind of went out early here in the spring and qualified third, and I'm not going to sit around and wait. I might just go back and take me a nap and relax a little bit, maybe play some NASCAR 2004 on the EA Sports deal. So, I don't know, maybe they'll wake me up and tell me if we beat Jimmy or not. But we got a really fast race car. This M&M Sport is fast. Just want to say thanks to all the guys in the fab shop. Doug and Robert have made a big commitment to our Speedway program to put it top notch, and it seems to be working out. We'll give a two thumbs up this week to the motor shop. Great job on this new restrictor plate motor. So, see what happens, Matt.
Serious contenders. Remember, they were third here in the spring with this very race car. Mike?
Thanks, Matt, and hi, everybody. Mike Joy with Larry McReynolds and Jeff Hammond. This has been a race of surprises. The fall race at Talladega went, 14 years without a repeat winner? Not lately. Dale Earnhardt Jr. going for 5 in a row, trying to become the first Winston Cup driver to win 5 consecutive races at the same super speedway. And with today's restrictor plate racing, that becomes a more formidable task than ever. So, Larry, we have, surprise, a rule change.
Well, and I think one reason NASCAR could do this is because right now, we don't have a points championship, so they can kind of test the waters just a little bit. I mean, this is the restrictor plate that's been used all year long. Remember, the throttle bore on the carburetor is 1 inch and 11/16. This has 7/8 holes. This takes about half the horsepower away from the engine. So what NASCAR has done is they have opened up the restrictor plate to a 29/30 seconds. And if you can see the difference, we've tried to color this black, but it's only 30 thousandths of an inch. But what that equates to is almost 25 horsepower. And when they A-beat it at Daytona at a test a few weeks ago, it was a second on the racetrack. But, Jeff, they wasn't going to let them have that full second. There's some other rule changes.
No, they sure wasn't, Larry. What they did, they turned right around, and they added half-inch more rear blade to the car in an effort to try to cut that down. And what NASCAR is trying to do is trying to make it where these guys can do some more passing, put more horsepower so they have some throttle response, but also make the cars more stable in the draft by adding an extra half-inch of rear blade, as we see right there at the rear of the car.
So a little horsepower and aerodynamic tweaking, trying to improve the quality of competition. Well, we'll see how it all works out on Sunday. We'll see who sits on the Bud pole, beginning right after this. Speed Channel's coverage of NASCAR Bud pole qualifying from Talladega Superspeedway, brought to you by new Odor Eaters Plus, the only arch-supporting insole that protects against odor and wetness. First car on the speedway for his 2-lap run is Bobby Labonte, the Interstate Battery Chevrolet. And what we're seeing here up there in the shadows of Turn 1 is going to be a familiar sight on lap 1 this afternoon.
Yeah, Mike, what you're seeing right now is these guys are trying to get these cars wound up. Even though they've got 32nd inch more plate to give them more horsepower, with the extra half-inch of blade, they still need to run up high to get the car wound up to get the most amount of speed out of that car before it takes the second lap, which everybody kind of believes is the fastest lap.
You heard Bobby Labonte talking in his interview. He was the fastest in practice for most of the practice session. They had a 2-hour practice before qualifying, and what happens is everybody starts panicking in the last 10 minutes of practice, and you go out there and you're running all over the top of each other. And the rule of thumb is, the way the draft works, if you can see a car, it's helping you, it's cutting a hole in the air for you. Now watch Bobby on his second lap. I'm going to say he's going to come all the way down to the yellow line right at the bottom, and he'll probably run right around the bottom, even on the back stretch, because that's the shortest distance to travel.
And a lot of times people have talked about when you get up close to the wall down the back straightaway, the weight that the car creates hits the wall and actually comes back and bounces off the car again, getting too much air back on that rear spoiler, so that's what you don't want to have happen.
We won't say the driver is not important today, but he is today, unlike tomorrow in practice and, of course, Sunday in the 500-miler. All he has to do today, his only job, is to make sure he leaves pit road, get that thing up to speed as quick as possible, not miss a shift, and not move that steering wheel, because anytime you move that steering wheel, it's scrubbing speed off the car.
And remember, the start-finish line at Talladega, not in the middle of the tri-oval as in Daytona, but way down here past the exit of pit road.
He picked up almost a second compared to what he did his first lap versus his second lap.
2 years ago, not one of Bobby Labonte's highlight reel moments. Getting tipped and then getting squeezed, running out of racing room. Bobby turns turtle and a huge pileup ensues toward the end of the race.
And as you talked about right there, that was right at the end of the race. And it pretty much everybody was going for broke, and Bobby was trying to keep Bobby Hamilton behind him, and they got together, and as you can see, the end result was not very pretty.
Yeah, I mean, the end result for Bobby Labonte the last 4 Talladega races has not been very good, because he has finished 22nd or worse, and a lot of times it has been just like what you saw a while ago in a big wreck.
And what you saw is what NASCAR is trying to eliminate the pack racing, but maintain good racing and that good quality competition. That's why all of this rule tweaking is going on. Elliott Sadler's going to be next up. Here's Matt.
And Nate Kennan and the guys in the Coors Light team pushing Sterling's car up. Sterling, how's the car?
It's a new car, and we got a lot left in practice. Had to spoil up a little bit on it, so we get laid down and put all the good oil in it, all the stuff, and that's what we'll run.
All the good snake oil.
Snake oil, all that hocus pocus stuff. Pour it in there.
Zero weight qualifying oil is what you can't buy zero weight at your local gas station.
You don't want to,
Yeah,
Mike.
exactly.
I'm telling you, you don't want to have an opportunity to put the wrong oil in your cars, but when it comes to qualifying, it's worth a whole lot. And Larry McReynolds, you know for a fact, if you get everything tuned up just right, it could definitely pick you up as much as a half a second when it comes to a place like Talladega.
Yeah, I mean, you'll put light oil in the engine, you'll put light oil in the gear and the transmission, anything that will build less friction. And the one thing I heard Sterling talking about there as well is they had the spoiler up a little bit. You talked, Jeff, about the half-inch added to the top of all of the spoilers, but also here at Talladega and Daytona, NASCAR mandates a spoiler angle. You have to be 55 degrees. You can be more, which it sounds like that's maybe what Sterling and those guys did. Maybe they practiced with 57 or 58, then they know they get the benefit, because any little bit of degrees on that spoiler out, it's going to run faster down the straightaway.
Elliott Sadler's first lap is 7/10 quicker than Bobby Labonte's first lap. I didn't pay a lot of attention to his line, but
he was up
let's see
pretty
what
high
that
right
means.
there as far as getting up to speed, but he definitely is got that thing wound up. And so far, as our little light is showing, he is definitely in the green, big time.
You heard him talking in his interview about the spring race here. This is the same car that he qualified and finished third within the spring.
And that gap is growing over Bobby Labonte. Elliott Sadler is going to be our fastest qualifier as he comes to the line. 189.943, 50.4.
And that don't quite back up what he ran in practice, Jeff.
But at the same time, let's point out one other thing. You've got to go through the room of doom. And a lot of times, that little bit of adjustment sometimes NASCAR will put on you, or when you get down here at the end of pit road and they do the final adjustment to the rear spoiler with the NASCAR angle finder, that could be the difference right now.
So the M&M Sport is quickest. Todd Bodine is next up. Here's Dave Burns.
And Bobby Labonte, just about 5/100 slower than your practice time. Is that all heat related, you think?
Well, I don't know. I mean, they went through the room over there and got through. And what Elliott had run in practice, I mean, he's a little bit slower if all things shake out, I think, than what he ran in practice. So we'll see where that ends up. I mean, it's hard to tell right now. But, I mean, right now we're second out of 2, but I don't think we'll be 49th out of 49, I guess.
Yeah, they had a pretty good run, Mike.
Thanks, Dave. Todd Bodine is next, the National Guard Ford. There are 49 cars here. That means 6 cars will go home. However, there are several cars that have used up their allotment of provisional starts. The 14, the 43, the 4, and the 49 are not eligible for provisionals. Plus, there are 3 cars here that are with new teams. They have not yet earned a provisional. What all that means is there are 42 cars eligible for a provisional, so nobody who uses a provisional will be charged with using one because there's less cars eligible than there are spots in the field. Now, it still means the cars without provisionals would go home if they're not in the top 36. If for some reason some of the cars who are eligible fall off and we can't fill the field without going to one of those cars who's not eligible, boy, is this convoluted, then the car with the most qualifying attempts, which would be Kenny Schrader, the 49, would get a spot in the field. And if it all comes down to that, we'll have a 1-hour special on speed much later this evening to explain it to you.
The moral of the story is 43 cars will be in this race on Sunday.
Thank you. That's where I was getting there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's right,
And
folks.
6 will be going home.
Don't
It's
be confused. We'll get it all straightened out, and you'll have a starting lineup.
That sounded like some of those driver descriptions about how the car was driving.
Yeah. Explain that one more time.
The California recall election is simpler, and I think it has less candidates than what we have here.
I'll be one to bet you couldn't tell me that same story again and not miss anything.
Next time we come here, of course, by then the rules may be different.
Yeah.
All right, here's Todd Bodine. First lap of 52.30. And Elliott's first lap was a 50.90, so Todd Bodine about a second and a half off on that first lap.
And what that tells me, and what this should tell this race team, is they are missing something in the aero package of this car because they use Robert Yates engines just like in Elliott Sadler's car.
And we mentioned 3 teams that are here for the first time. One of those is a Yates car. There are several what we call R&D development teams that are here for this race. Todd finishes up 51.6, and that is 1.2 seconds off pole for the National Guard Ford. Elliott Sadler's M&M's Ford is quickest, Bobby Labonte's second, and Todd Bodine third of 3. Sterling Marlin from Columbia, Tennessee, the Coors Light Dodge, will be our 4th qualifier. So far, Elliott Sadler is quickest, Bobby Labonte, and Todd Bodine. So this will be the first of the Dodges to take to the track. Marlin, a 3-time Talladega pole sitter. He's done it twice in a Ford and once in a Chevy.
And what'll be interesting right now, Mike, is to see how Sterling's car comes up to speed, because he said they made some adjustments. And here in a minute, we'll get an opportunity to take a look down there on pit road where NASCAR is doing the final sit on the spoiler angle, and that can be very critical as far as how you've been practicing, how you sit your spoiler angle down in the garage area, and how it differs once you get out here on pit road. And a lot of times when guys lose speed, it's when they swap that plate, put the NASCAR plate on it, along with the spoiler adjustment.
Yeah, the good thing about it, NASCAR checks everybody's rear spoiler in the very same location marked on pit road. Sterling and those guys, they were somewhat struggling with this new race car in practice. They were only 29th quickest. A lot of new race cars in the garage area, Jeff, and they really didn't get to track test them because a lot of the teams are out of test. But of course, they did get them into the wind tunnel.
A lot of guys in the wind tunnel, trying to get ready for here at Talladega. But as you said, a lot of new cars, because I think guys were kind of like thinking, hey, this is a golden opportunity. We got to kind of like look ahead to Daytona. We got one more opportunity here to see how to do the race trim and kind of work on this new package and see if we can work something out before Daytona.
With that in mind, John Darby announced the new templates for next year, and the big changes are not in the templates themselves, but in the tolerances. And a lot of the teams are saying they're going to have to cut up a lot of stuff again.
Imagine that.
I did.
If that goes through.
I talked to several car owners, and they felt that same way, and they weren't really, what you say, very happy about that. Sterling Marlin, I'll be pretty happy. Picked it up a little bit right there. Second fastest.
50.6. That puts him second to Elliott Sadler by 0.2 of a second. Marlin owns 2 victories at Talladega Superspeedway. They both came in that yellow Kodak number 4 for the Morgan McClure team. Back in the days when Ron Pittman and that engine shop ruled the roost as far as restrictor plate horsepower were concerned, Marlin was a familiar sight in Victory Lane at Daytona and Talladega.
Yeah, that number 4 yellow car, that Kodak car, it went to Victory Lane here 4 times. Twice with Sterling Marlin and twice with Ernie Irvin.
Dave Burns.
And Mike, I'm with Elliott Sadler. Elliott, you ran a 33 in practice, but a 41 on your qualifying run. You happy with that?
I don't know. I think that's going to be close to getting the pole, but I think it's a little bit more windy than when we tested, so that might, a lot of the guys might slow down a little bit, hopefully. But hey, that's good for us. Same car we qualified third here with in the spring, and Robin and Doug Yates have done a great job in the engine program, and the guys did good to shot putting it together. It's been fun to drive so far today, so we have to wait and see what happens.
And now you're right. You'll wait and wait and wait. Matt?
Dave up at the front of the grid, 2002 Daytona 500 winning crew chief Tommy Baldwin Jr. working on that spoiler, adjusting the final two brackets, making sure it's exactly at 55 degrees. Tommy very happy with their race car so far this weekend. Remember, this is the same car that they ran at Daytona back in July and finished 12th. And he told me the only changes, Mike, they made to this race car, they actually just dusted it off. No changes whatsoever. They basically pulled the deck lid off, did a little bit of work where the spoiler is, and that's basically it.
And Matt, if you notice right there, that contraption they're using, you would think, why would they need something like that? And Jeff was talking about this earlier, just to check the degrees. Well, that whole mechanism weighs about 14 or 15 pounds. And what that does, it makes sure that the blade don't bend back in the air and would have less than 55 degrees. They mandate that you actually have 6 braces, plus also it checks the thickness of that spoiler. You have to be 3/16 of an inch thick with that aluminum spoiler.
Yeah, NASCAR felt like it was necessary because some of the guys had gotten a little bit creative and understanding that getting that spoiler out of the air is speed. They came up with this kind of format, plan, contraption, if you want to call it that, and it's really made it what you consider very fair for all the competitors, because everybody knows when you get to there, that's what you got to be. This is what it's got to look like.
Here's Casey Mears in his second trip to Talladega, driving the Ganassi Sabates Target Dodge. Started 10th, finished 40th. Didn't finish in the spring, and in one Busch start here, he started 24th and finished 5th. Lap of 51.45. That's going to be 4th quickest.
I mean, there's a lot of things that will make you run fast at a place like this with a restrictor plate. Casey's going to end up third quickest at a 50.75. We'll talk about that. I think Matt has Tommy Baldwin right now, Jimmy Spencer's crew chief.
And Tommy walking over to Steve Peterson, asking a question about his car and line, since a lot of cars actually haven't made it up to the front of the grid. And Tommy, pleased with this race car. I know you haven't really touched it since Daytona.
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much left it the same after Daytona. Car raced real good and race trim, and you know, the motor guys, Mike Agee Engines back at the shop, did a great job from Daytona to here. They picked us up a lot of horsepower, a lot of speed, so hopefully we'll get in the show, you know, the comfortable speed, and you know, the car races real well. It was really balanced at Daytona, and usually when you got a good balanced car there, the car is usually pretty good here, so we'll see what happens.
Quickly, you've been timing the cars that have gone so far. What are you seeing?
Well, everybody's pretty much matching what they've done in practice speeds. And a couple of guys drafted at the end will probably go a little bit slow, but you know, everything's so close nowadays, you can't fool around with things you used to do. So you got what you got. You better make sure you know what you got, because if you'll try to fool yourself and you'll go slower.
What he has was the 12th fastest car in practice. Dave?
Matt with Sterling Marlin, checking with Lee McCall, discussing the lap he just took. You guys made a pretty big pickup from practice this morning. Did you have any issues this morning, or is that just a great tuning job?
Good tuning job. Hey, you know, we just we knew we could pretty much run. Even boys said between 60 and 70, so they can run a 63. So boys done a good job. It's a new car, and we run the Busch Clash 2 years ago. I guess it's been so long since it's been here. 2 or 3 years ago. But yeah, hopefully the race a little better than the other car we had here, and get that Coors Light Dodge back to victory lane.
Now, I got to ask you don't think you or anybody might have been holding back this morning at all, were they?
No, not a bit. I just smashed the gas, and what it is, what it is.
Right.
Ain't much to it here at qualifying.
And what it was quicker on the qualifying lap, guys.
Kenny Schrader, who will hopefully start his 38th Talladega race on Sunday, a 2-time pole sitter in the 33 and a winner here in 1988 for Rick Hendrick. This is the BAM Racing Dodge, unsponsored this week.
I will say they're trying to accomplish a lot of things, but here with 8 races to go in this 2003 Winston Cup season, the biggest thing they're trying to do is get a sponsorship on the side of that race car. But I was talking before we talked to Tommy Baldwin, a lot of things mandated here at a restrictor plate racetrack like Daytona or Talladega. We talked about the restrictor plate, we talked about the spoiler angle and size, but the big 2 things will make your car run fast. That's horsepower under that hood and getting that rear spoiler out of the air. NASCAR certainly understands this, so along with angle and size, they mandate things in the rear of the car to all of these teams. You cannot run softer than a 350-pound rear spring. The softer the spring, it gets that spoiler out of the air. Then they actually hand out the rear shocks to the teams to qualify with the same compression, same rebound. That way the cars can't travel down and then be held down by rebound, so you run the same shocks and the same rear springs as all your competitors.
A good lap for Schrader. He was 14th in practice, and he backs it up third quickest at a 50.65. Remember, that team's out of provisional, so hopefully his time is quickest. Welcome back to Talladega, where Mike Skinner is the 7th qualifier of the day, subbing for injured Jerry Nadeau in what today is the USG Sheetrock Pontiac. Now, they're on the car for several races. The Army has the balance of the schedule on that 01 car, and Skinner was 20th in practice.
Now, Larry, I was watching when Mike went off there in turn 1. The car's bottoming out. A lot of sparks coming out from underneath it, and as bright, sunny day as it is outside, that car must really be hitting pretty hard. As you know, it can be also creating drag on this car and upsetting the attitude of the car, which is not good.
Like putting the brakes on. Of course, Mike will be in this car about 3 or 4 more races. The final 4 or 5 races, they have an affiliation with Hendrick Motorsports because Hendrick supplies the engine for this car. So since Rick Hendrick is going to move Brian Vickers up to Winston Cup next year, he's made a deal with this race team to run Brian 4 or 5 races at the end of the season in Winston Cup.
Sixth of 7 there for
he slowed down
Mike
a little
Skinner.
bit right there because, again, I think the car bottoming out probably upset it a little bit.
Dave?
Yeah, but Casey Mears, who picked up almost 2/10 on that run, where'd that come from?
Well, I mean, the guys just do their magic. You know, they do the, you know, all the stuff they can do to help speed things up a little bit that you can do for 2 laps instead that you can't do for practice. And, you know, it picked up. It was good. It's a good run for the Target Dodge. I don't know where it's going to end up because there's a lot of cars to go left yet. And we were top 10 there in practice until everybody kind of started getting some drafts and stuff. So if we could hang in the top 10, that would just be awesome for us. Top 15 would be great. So, you know, we had a good run with the Target Dodge. I'm looking forward to the race, getting the whole race in. Last time we were here when Newman blew that left rear, it took a bunch of us out, and really looking forward to just getting some experience and running the full race here at Talladega.
His second Winston Cup start here on Sunday. Matt?
And Bill Elliott, an 8-time Talladega pole winner. What about your chances for a number 9, Bill?
It didn't look too good from practice, but you know, these guys, Mike Ford and all the guys have done a good job, and you know, we can perform miracles here today with the Dodge, but we'll see. You know, I mean, to me, it's irrelevant where you start, especially the way plate racing is today. It'll probably be a little new era with a different size plate and a little bit different rear spoiler, but we'll just have to see when we practice in the morning.
Now, you've been smiles all week. Where were you earlier this week?
I was in Kansas City, man.
Where?
Kansas City. You know, the air's a little different in Kansas. So I was having a good time out there testing.
I heard you paid a visit to somebody's race shop out there.
Oh, Danny Lasowski's. I had a good time. That's a good guy. I guess Tony helped him out on his sprint cars, and we went out to dinner there in downtown Higginsville. And
at the bowling alley.
At the bowling alley. It was a unique experience, but I enjoyed it. That's kind of like Dawsonville.
Rumors are that he made you buy, too, but we'll check on that.
I didn't buy.
Really?
Christian Fittipaldi, the Bugles Dodge, on the speedway, was 8th in practice. But that was likely wind-aided.
Well, I don't know, Mike, because you heard Tommy Baldwin talking about Mike Egge engines. Mike Egge builds the engines for the 3 Petty cars along with the Jimmy Spencer car, and pretty consistently all through practice, all 4 of these cars were up there in the top 10 or 15. I know Christian Fittipaldi and that group, they came down here and tested, and they were very encouraged by the test. You know, you saw the interview a while ago with Casey Mears. Earlier this week, Casey Mears, along with Christian Fittipaldi and Richard Petty, they visited the Target House up in Memphis, Tennessee, which is a home away from home for families of children recovering from life-threatening diseases at the St. Jude's Children's Hospital. So a great thing those guys did this past week.
See how Christian does here as he completes his final lap.
It's going to be a good lap. 6th on the board, 51, just about 51 flat for Christian Fittipaldi. But pole qualifying continues after this. 9th qualifier at Talladega is Shelburne, Vermont's Kevin LePage in the Morgan McClure Kodak Pontiac. That team announced earlier this week that LePage and the Busch Series' Johnny Sauter would share the driving duties in this car for the balance of the season.
Kevin's one of those guys that needs to pick it up here a little bit. He needs to get up in that top 36 and get himself into this field solidly, because it could be a little iffy if he's not.
No provisionals, and yeah, Jeff, they were 40th quickest in practice.
And I know you explained that earlier, but the best way to not to be into that confusion is be 36 or faster.
Be in the top 36,
right?
Which today means be faster than 13 cars.
One thing I want to back up, make sure we don't overlook here, is the fact that Sterling Marlin told us they made some tuning on his race car, and they picked up almost 0.6 of a second, which is pretty much unheard of in a restrictor plate race. Kenny Schrader picked up a couple tenths. His teammate Casey Mears picked up a couple tenths, but I mean, 0.6 of a second is large.
Dave Burns.
And standing by with Kenny Schrader, who gained more than 2/10 on that lap. You happy with that?
Yeah, we're real happy with it. The car was good in practice, and they picked it up a little bit. So, you know, it'll be a solid starting spot. I'm saying top 15, I think, for sure. Might be a little bit better than that. That surprises, but you come in here without a provisional, you know, anything up there towards the front's looking pretty good.
Yep, so his 38th start here at Talladega is looking good. Matty?
Dave, besides daughter Macy's good luck charms on the dash, Michael Waltrip has a little something new to his Chevrolet this week. Let's talk about it. Your roof hat.
Yeah, we tested it at Daytona. It works great. You can see the outline of it here. We've installed a net to keep my hands inside of it in case I flip over or something. Slugger won't let me open it up today because it compromises the roof a little bit, or it could if you don't open it properly. Of course, if you've wrecked your car and you need to get out, you don't care about that. But maybe after qualifying's over, I can show you how it works. It's really cool.
Say, we'll meet you back in the garage after you make your run. We'll look at it.
Well, we're real proud of the Napa Chevy. It's running great. Appreciate all the work that's gone into giving us this car.
We've already got in trouble. We got yelled at, didn't we?
Feel like we can win this weekend, and that's really a great honor, Matt, to come to Talladega with a car that you think you can win with, and I'm proud of my team for that.
And this team has been on such a roll. DEI won 8 of the last 11 restrictor plate races. In junior, we've talked about it before, on a drive for 5 straight here at Talladega.
And Jimmy Spencer on the speedway looking for his second ever Talladega front row start. It was this race in '94 when he drove Junior Johnson's Ford to victory from the outside pole position.
He was pretty much Mr. Restrictor Plate that year because he won here and he won the 4th of July Daytona race, and both driving that 27 car, and that's actually Jimmy's only 2 career Winston Cup victories.
We watched that race from, we were up at yesteryears up near the Milwaukee, the State Fairgrounds. And Buddy Baker and I are sitting there watching the race. Jimmy hops out of this car. He says, I owe all this to Buddy Baker. He taught me how to drive Talladega. Buddy was just the proudest man in the state of Wisconsin for that moment, and for lots more to come.
I was part of watching both those victories with my driver who ran second to him in both those races, the 28 car.
What are you trying to say, Larry?
I ain't saying a word.
I talked to Jimmy a little earlier because, you know, they had struggled with some of our super speedway program, and when they got everything kind of turned around at Daytona, he was really happy. Talked to Tommy Baldwin about how this car had really worked well for him, and he was really excited about it. Couldn't wait to get in the race trim. And I asked him, I said, Jimmy, what happens if you don't qualify good? He said, I'm not going to worry about it because I've got a good race car. That confidence in knowing the car can draft and pull up like it should and handle like it should is a big boost to a driver's morale in case he's not quite as fast as he'd like to be.
Are there many places you can say that about?
No. But he also added, as long as everybody keeps their head screwed on right at the start of the race, it doesn't matter where you start because you can get to the front.
Well, he's going to have some getting to do. 8th quickest for Jimmy Spencer and Mongo. Final practice for the EA Sports 500 is tomorrow, and you will see Winston Cup Happy Hour live right here on Speed tomorrow noon Eastern Time during this United States Grand Prix weekend. Matt?
And Jamie McMurray with a very special paint scheme, especially for Talladega.
Yeah, it's pretty neat that Have One was willing to pay tribute to Davey Allison and the legacy that he's left behind. I can't think of a cooler place to get to run this paint scheme than at Talladega. Cielo and I got to go to Hueytown yesterday and see Davey's birthplace and the shop that Bobby and Davey both raced out of for a while. So I had a great time yesterday, and I told Bobby it was over with. He told me a lot of stories that the camera maybe didn't get to see for the pre-race show, And I told him, I said, man, you can't buy something like that. So it's been a really special weekend, and our car's pretty fast. So, and if we could win this race, it'd be cool for me, but it'd be great for all these race fans too.
Kind of a Alabama gang member just for this weekend only in that special Davey Allison paint scheme.
Everything but the number, Larry.
And of course, that was Davey's rookie paint scheme in 1987 when he won his very first Winston Cup race here. And I think, Mike, tonight on trackside, we've got Jamie McMurray along with Bobby Allison and Liz Allison, Davey's widow, on the show with us.
You know, touching on that just a little bit, I don't know if a lot of people know this, how strong a rookie season Davey Allison had in 1987 with 5 poles and 2 wins. So a really tremendous year for Davey Allison.
A season that I don't think was surpassed until Tony Stewart.
That's true.
Here's Ricky Craven, the Tide Pontiac. Started 4th here in the spring race of 01 and finished 4th here this spring. His best results at Talladega. He'll make his 15th Winston Cup start here on Sunday.
And this team, of course, went to their own engine program this year, but at the 4 restrictor plate racetracks, they leased their engines from Richard Childress Racing. This is the car chassis that they basically have run all year long at the restrictor plate racetracks.
And he was pretty close to pole pace there for a bit. Now the gap begins to grow just a little bit.
Ricky was 24th quickest in practice. Normally, anytime you have a Richard Childress engine in your car, they have a way of, we've been talking about tuning it up, they tune her up for qualifying.
You know how to tune one up for sure.
I think he's going to be somewhere maybe in the top 5 with this run. Sixth quickest at a 50-90.
Ricky Craven, 6 of 11. 49 drivers will attempt to make the field here today. On track at Talladega, the singular wireless Chevy. Started outside pole here in this race, or excuse me, in the spring race a year ago. Finished 10th here this spring. 6 Talladega starts.
Elected to bring a brand new race car. You know, this race team so strong in the summer months, winning the 2 road course races, but I'm going to tell you, they won Watkins Glen, and the bottom has fallen out because they have finished 21st or worse in the last 5 races.
As they say, basically hit the wall.
Hard.
Extremely hard.
But this would definitely be a place they could get this turned back around right here.
I know that Robbie said he really likes racing these restrictor plate races. He likes the challenge of trying to figure out what his car needs to have to pull up and kind of dice with the competition. Hopefully he'll be able to pick the speed up a little bit, because otherwise they've been struggling all day since they've unloaded this car.
10th quickest for Robbie Gordon at a 51.20.
A little bit quicker than what he practiced at. He practiced at a 51.50, so about 3/10. So that should be a little bit of an improvement. How about you, Larry? I mean, when you're off, any kind of improvement sure does make you feel better.
Yes. That's going to be very borderline.
The NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series lives on Speed, your exclusive home for truck racing action. And tomorrow, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, under the lights at Las Vegas, Glitter Gulch pays host to the Truck Series.
Man leading the points, that's his hometown, Brendan Gaughan.
It's a home game for them. Michael Waltrip, the Napa Chevrolet, 3 times a winner at Daytona, and a runner-up here in the spring race a year ago. The Dale Jr. and Michael combination has been all but invincible in restrictor plate racing of late.
One of those deals, whenever you see that red car and that blue car hooked up together, you better watch out, because they're getting ready to tag team you to the front.
You know, we were talking about Robbie Gordon, the bottom falling out. All of a sudden, Michael Waltrip in this group, in fact, after Dover last week, they fell out of the front, top 10 in points for the very first time all year long. And I know with 8 races to go, I know how much that whole group, especially Michael Waltrip, would love to finish in the top 10 in points, because he's never accomplished that before. And he was talking about the roof hatch Jeff, I think you and I both saw the same thing as we walked through the garage area this morning. And again, not like the spoiler, unlike the restrictor plate, the roof hatch is optional to the teams right now. This is one of the few cars that I've found that had the roof hatch. I think a lot has to do with we're creatures of habit. And even though Gary Nelson and the guys at the Research and Development Department have done a tremendous amount of work, I think the jury's still out. Does it affect the car in any way? It's not an issue here at Talladega, but I think another reason teams are reluctant to put it in, there's quite a bit of weight involved, and that's the wrong place that you want weight up there in the roof of the car.
But what it boils down to, Larry, is the driver's comfort level in being able to get out of his car in case of incident. And with the shoulder rests and the side headrests and the additional nets, some drivers, and Michael was one of the leading proponents of this, wanted another way out. And now he's got it.
Yeah, he's got it. And you think about Michael's size of being 6'4", 6'5", as big as he is, and you look at a guy maybe the size of Tony Stewart or John Andretti, it's maybe not apples to apples, but NASCAR gave these guys an opportunity to do something that will make them feel more confident in their race car. So, you know, hats off to Gary Nelson for all the work put into it. It's a great addition to the safety factor that they're trying to implement all through the whole series. And, I mean, it's something that I think will work, in the future.
And it is very, very rare that NASCAR has allowed anything that complex on the cars as an option. Usually, if one driver has it, everybody's got to have it.
It's a standard. It's a standard.
Let's have a look.
You see right there, they're pulling the inside lever inside the car, and Gary Nelson right there is one of the guys who helped develop actually releases these levers and lets that top fold back away and open the hatch.
I think it will open from either side, left or right. You can open it from the inside, as he's doing right here. There you see it opening from the left side, or it can be opened from the outside. So there's a lot of options on how you can open this hatch. Again, I think it's one of those deals that teams are just reluctant till they know it's proven. And the weight issue, I think that we always fight.
Michael times in at 50.91. That is 7th quickest. Matt?
Ward Burton watching his NASCAR officials go over your rear spoiler there. What about your race car, Ward? Expectations for qualifying 31st in practice?
Well, a lot of guys on the time chart at the end, everybody's shuffling to get out and run their lap, but they wasn't getting clean laps. So I feel like that we can end up somewhere between 18th and 23rd, although Caterpillar Dodge could pick up more than when we practice. How fast the time during practice was a 51.17, so we'll just have to wait and see, Matt.
And this car raced very well, guys. Back in April, he finished 7th.
Thanks, Matt. 8-time Talladega pole winner. Bill Elliott comes onto the speedway in the Dodge dealer's Dodge of Ray Evernham.
Actually had 6 consecutive poles here at one time, and he is actually the track record holder here, and this was set back in 1987 prior to restrictor plates at a 44.99, 212.8 miles per hour. And he actually, little bigger restrictor plate, he's the restrictor plate track record holder at a 48.12, just almost 200 miles per hour.
But Elliott said earlier it would be a tall order to add to that number of poles today.
As you can see right here, he's already a second slower. Of course, this is just his first lap than Elliott Sadler. He's going to be 51.53, so he'd have to pick up well over a second to even come close to Elliott Sadler's pole speed right now.
1985, he swept both ends, won the pole, won the race, and came from, I forget how many laps down.
I think it was almost 2 laps down.
Yeah. 2 laps under green that he made up. None of this wave around.
He didn't have no free pass.
No, sir. Hey, he's pretty close on it, Larry. 2/10.
But as good as he has been at Talladega and a lot of super speedway races, he's been struggling of late here at Talladega. Can't seem like put it all together and get back to what he was at one time as far as his dominance here.
Yeah, he's finished 10th or worse in the last 15 races here, last 15 starts. It's going to be a pretty good lap, though.
Tails a bit at the end of 5th. 50.76 for Bill Elliott. 5th fastest of 14 drivers who've qualified so far. John Andretti will be the 15th qualifier in the number 90. Not a Junie Dunleavy number 90, but they borrowed the number from Junie to announce AOL 9.0 on the side of that RCR Chevy. One of several Would you call them research and development cars entered here?
I think that's what I'd look at them at. We got 4 of them. You know, Robert Yates has got one with Jason Jarrett driving it, Mike Bliss for a Gibbs, and David Green is in a Hendrick bank car. And I think all these cars have been tested, and NASCAR mandates if you're going to test, you got to race. So that's the reason why they're here.
Well, what they also gain out of it is, you know, everybody will be in Daytona testing in January. It would be 2 laps at a time by yourself. This is a real test on Sunday when you can put a car out there in race conditions with 42 other cars, maybe trying different engine combinations for a 500-mile haul leading into the 2004 season. John's going to be 9th quickest at a 50.99. Remember, he has to get in on time, and I think, Mike, you were pointing out, you have to beat 13 cars to be in that top 36 fastest speeds.
Correct. Here's Dave.
And Bill Elliott with a big jump from your practice time. Pretty happy with that, aren't you?
Well, I'm pretty pleased. I mean, the guys do an awful good job. You know, Mike Ford and all the guys. You know, Ray's put a lot of effort in this Dodge team, and we just need to have a good run on it in this Dodge dealer's Dodge on Sunday.
And like your teammate had last week, you know, he's doing pretty well, and it's about your turn, isn't it?
Yeah, but he's going to needs to use old darn every now and then, you know.
I think I know what he's referring to, guys.
Jamie McMurray will bring a tear to the eye of longtime Alabama race fans as his Haviland Dodge. And I'll tell you one thing that's good, not just that they're running this Davey Allison paint scheme, but Larry, we've talked for about a year how the star kept getting smaller on the hood of that car. Now it's getting bigger again.
Exactly, and the paint scheme that they've already announced that Jamie and his 42 group is going to run next year is mostly symbolic of the paint scheme that Davey ran in his final years of racing, 91, 92, 93. As you say with that, it don't even have to have a word that goes with it. All it has to have is that big fluorescent orange and white star on the hood.
Well, you know, that's the trouble with corporate mergers is sometimes the icons that are so familiar to consumers get lost. And I guess there was serious thought of doing away with the Texaco star altogether. Now that's turned around, and it's going to be back and bigger than ever. Meanwhile, here is McMurray trying to put a lap on the board to validate the scheme he carries on the side.
Just watching, watching his warm-up lap right there is any indication how fast this race car is. He's got a really good warm-up lap, and he's looking to jump up there real close to maybe Elliott Sadler or his teammate Sterling Marlin.
Yeah, he's in the 59-second bracket, and the reason we can get that lap, as Mike, you pointed out earlier, the start-finish line is past the exit of pit road where they go out. Most everybody's been in the low 60-second bracket.
First lap's a 51.40, and that's pretty respectable for the first lap for McMurray, who started 5th here in this race last year. That is the 3rd fastest first lap today.
He talked about where he qualified and finished a year ago. That was actually his very first Winston Cup start, substituting for the injured Sterling Marlin. But Buddy business picked up about 2 weeks later as he went on to win his first Winston Cup race at Lowe's Motor Speedway.
Good lap here. He moves up to what would be 2nd if he holds this pace.
This tells you where he's currently at right there. This is going to be a good run for Jamie.
He's holding his own right there. It really is.
He was 16th quickest in practice, but he's going to be much better than that right here.
We'll paint it like this every week. Jamie McMurray responds with a run that is 2nd fastest to Elliott Sadler, 50.56.
I know we still got a lot of cars to go, but boy, the Dodges, they are all over the top 6 there as they're 2nd through 6. And even though Dodges had been strong qualifying, of course, they were out of racing for quite a while. The last time Dodge won a race here was Dave Marcus in 1976. But when the France family NASCAR built this track in 1969, a Dodge won the very first race here, Richard Brickhouse.
And when you look at what's going on right now as far as qualifying, Chip Ganassi and Felix Sabates have got to be smiling pretty big along with Tony Glover. Got Jamie McMurray 2nd, Sterling's 3rd, teammate Casey Mears is 5th. So they've got things going down there as far as that camp's concerned.
And let's see, who builds those motors? We talked about Bill Elliott's dominance here in the mid-'80s. I think old brother Ernie builds those motors. And Tony Santanacola, who has had a lot of success here as well when Kel Yarborough's team was winning races sitting on poles here.
Sure enough.
Boy, it's a big weekend in racing. At Indianapolis, the U.S. Grand Prix, which will be on speed. And, of course, here at Talladega, lots to report on come Sunday. Here's Matt.
And point leader Matt Kenseth, 49 out of 49 cars, Matt.
Yeah, that's not very good.
We got the same car here that we ran here last time in Daytona last time, and both places were real slow in practice, and I didn't qualify very well. So we knew it was going to be like this. We haven't worked on it at all since Daytona. Which isn't probably a smart thing, but this car seems to drive really well in the race. It always seems to handle good, and it seems to be able to draft well. You know, suck all the way up to the car in front of me real good, and seems to be okay once the race comes. So just kind of take our beating today, and hopefully be better tomorrow.
Same car has run all 3 races in the plate tracks this year. All 3 strong runs, 2 top 10s.
Yeah, Matt, I talked to Robbie Reiser this morning, and you could tell he was kind of down and out. And he said, you know, we have what the wind tunnel tells us, a lot faster race cars in our shop, but Matt loves the way this race car drives. And you know as well as I know, when you're trying to win a championship on race day, the car that drives good is the way to go.
Now, what's kind of funny when you talk about, does that seem like it's a very smart thing to do? But at this particular event, the fall race here, he's got an average finish of about 9th. And he's never had a DNF here at Talladega, so I mean, he's got a couple things going for him. So you've got to have, again, confidence in your driver. He says, I can do good with this race car. That's what you need.
They don't pay any points on pole day.
No.
Ward Burton in the Cat Dodge for Bill Davis. Started 5th here in the spring race last year. His best start in 16 races. He's had a top 10 finish, though, the last 2 times we've come here.
He was 31st quickest in practice.
And guys, I want to back up just a little bit one more time for Matt Kenseth and his situation with that 17 car. Both of you probably remember when Bud Moore used to bring the number 15 car down here with a 351 small block engine with Buddy Baker driving that car. Did not qualify very good at all. But when they dropped the green flag, that son was going to come to the front because, number one, Buddy knew how to work the air and draft really well, but he also had a lot of confidence in the way that car drove. So all these things, I think, kind of play into come to play here.
Ward Burton is 10th. Yeah, in qualifying, everybody had their foot on the floor all the way around. In the race, Baker did all day long.
50.85, and he's 8th right now.
Elliott Sadler remains the fastest. Matt Kenseth, the runaway Winston Cup point leader, will be our 21st qualifier. And if his practice time holds, that's about where he'll end up because Kenseth was the caboose in the practice train earlier today.
And now that there's 8 races to go, you're starting to see the numbers, we call it. What Matt needs to do in this group is finish 10th or better these remaining 8 races, and that would be if Kevin Harvick, right now who's second in points, led the most laps and won all 8 races. As long as Matt Kenseth can maintain a 10th place finish or better, he would still be the champion.
Now, Jeff and I have a little disagreement about this strategy during the commercial break, and your position is?
I mean, I just don't like the idea. I mean, the attitude and the feeling right now that I know that this race car is going to qualify dead last. I mean, it's probably going to be starting 37th if everything works out well, because at Talladega, you never know when something's going to happen in front of you.
True, Jeff, but I'm thinking if your eye is on the big prize, the points championship, and you got a car that Matt says races well, if you can't start up front, I'd start way out back.
Well, he's going to start way out back because right now he's 20th quickest out of 21 cars.
But, guys, he's got to be careful. If he loses that pack, well, guess what happens here?
That's true. Monday, we turn the wind tunnel back on. What's the future of CART? Paul Gentilozzi, a CART team owner who has the marketing rights to Trans Am. What will happen to Trans Am if Paul Gentilozzi takes over CART? What will happen next? Dave Despain will have it all, including your views, Monday night on Wind Tunnel. Matt.
And Jeff Gordon looking for his 3rd Talladega victory. First off, you were voicing your concerns to Steve Peterson from NASCAR about what?
Well, we need to have somebody down here to make some decisions because what's happened, there's a bunch of cars that haven't gotten through inspection. We got through early, and you know, all those guys should be on a 5-minute clock, and if they don't make the 5-minute clock, they shouldn't qualify as far as I'm concerned. And what they're telling us is, yeah, that we got to roll up through here, and you know, that if the cars get up here, then they'll put them ahead of us, but we shouldn't even be going out for about another 45 minutes the way we've got it, you know, factored in. And we drew a late number, and that's the luck of the draw. So I'm pretty concerned right now with what decision they're going to make because, you know, I think they should penalize somebody for it. We're going to get penalized if they make us go.
What'd Steve say to you in response?
He understands what I'm saying. He's on the radio trying to figure it out right now. But good thing is we got a great car here. It's been fast all day long, and we're just going to give it our best effort out there. Hopefully catch a cloud and see where we end up.
Well, the good news is the track temperature has actually dropped since the start of qualifying until now by about 9 degrees. Mike?
Thanks, Matt. Johnny Benson of Valvoline Pontiac up next. You know, how about the validity of Jeff Gordon's comments? His car is ready, but he'd like to qualify in sequence later.
Well, he knows cooler temperatures, the motors will make more horsepower, the racetrack will be a little cooler, have a little more grip, run faster. And I've talked to John Darby about this, and they're painted in a box here because what happens, this qualifying session takes so long that they almost have to start it at 3 o'clock Central Time. They opened the garage this morning at 5:30 a.m. These teams have been in there that long because it takes so long to get through the initial inspection, and they have to give them some practice. So what John and these guys are maybe thinking about to be able to allow a longer inspection time between practice and qualifying is maybe opening up next year on Thursday afternoon to get through the initial inspection, start practice early, and have a longer period of time because there's so many things goes on in that inspection area for the restrictor plate racetracks, unlike any other racetrack we go to.
Well said, Larry, because again, when you go down there, you've got to change shocks, you've got to take your rear springs out. There's so many little things that go to restrictor plate racing that really affect the time it takes to get out here on pit road, plus the final adjustment on the rear spoiler. All these things take time and can really put you way behind. As Johnny Benson completes his final lap and winds up 19th, and for Johnny Benson, again, that's going to be one of those times I believe it's going to be outside the top 36. But going back to what we were talking about, Jeff Gordon has got a legitimate claim. He's got a fast race car, and right now, weather and a late draw could easily put him on the pole.
Well, let me ask you, don't you go through inspection in the order of your draw, or just as cars show up?
As cars show up.
Well, maybe that could change. We'll be back as Elliott Sadler and Jamie McMurray right now hold the front row. Welcome back to Talladega, where Kenny Wallace is the 23rd driver to take time in the Stacker 2 Dodge of Bill Davis Racing.
He's one of the ones I would question their practice speed because on his first lap, he's going to be 23rd quickest out of 23 cars, but in practice, he was kind of a late entry into the top 5 quickest, and I think that came from a little bit of help out there.
Yeah, that we would call wind aided.
I get ready to say, you don't say.
Just sniffed a little bit of draft there.
But you did try to point this out earlier. When it comes down to those final minutes, and you're trying to make that last minute change, and all of a sudden you look at, do we have time to get in line? No. It is total chaos out there, and it's every man for himself.
Tell you what, he's going to pick up quite a bit, though, from his first lap. It's going to be a pretty decent lap for Kenny.
Are you trying to say you might be a little bit wrong?
He's going to still, I mean, he's going to be 11th quickest, so he picked up quite a bit.
That's a good lap.
Good run.
11th of 23, so Kenny's pretty well assured of being in the top 36.
He ran a 50.92, and in practice he ran a 50.64. And I think Matt's with a man that he's on a little bit of a roll. Finally moved in the top 10 in points, Matt.
Terry Labonte certainly is on a roll, top 10 in points. Darlington winner. 17th in practice. Terry, did you get a clean lap or a little bit of a draft?
No, that was a lot of a draft, so that was a little bit quicker than I think we can run. Hopefully we can pick up and run that. If we do, I think that'll be pretty good, but I'm afraid our guy was getting a little bit of help.
17th in practice, 2-time winner here, but he certainly is on a roll, guys.
Yeah, he has picked it up quite a bit, years past. I mean, definitely the last couple of years, Terry Labonte's been kind of mired back in the points race, but this year now he's up in the top 10. It's good to see him back.
Having a great resurgence this season. Greg Biffle, the defending Busch Series champion, took his name out of the rumor mill this week. It had been thought that he might be courted for one of the open seats at VEI or RCR and be moving from Ford to Chevy. Not so. Biffle says his future is secure with Jack Roush behind the wheel of this Ranger Ford.
And I think maybe part of that has happened because recently, Jack Roush made a little bit of a change with the crew chiefs there, bringing Doug Richard in. And I mean, that team is even though they won at Daytona, they had struggled a little bit. Brought Doug Richard on board, and it seems like that chemistry has come along quite. It's done really has some really strong runs as of late.
The Pepsi 400 winner.
And this is the same car that they've run at all of the restrictor plate races, the car that actually won the Pepsi 400. And boy, when I think about this car, I think about the spring race back here where he had such a good, strong run. He definitely proved in a pack of cars, your car does not have to be that aerodynamically sound because it looked like a beer can been laying on the side of the interstate for about 3 weeks.
I was getting ready to say right there, he redefined the definition about aerodynamics when it comes to this race car in the spring. It was beat one into the other, and he was still up there contending for the win.
That was the amazing thing, that he was able to hang with the pack. You know, when the pack caught him, I thought they'd just blow right past him. Not so.
But you know, Mike, you were talking about, we were talking about Matt Kenseth struggling a little bit, and these guys, all of them had good runs at the last restrictor plate race at Daytona, but none of them qualified well. And when I look at the practice sheet, other than Mark Martin being up in 21st, the other 4 Roush cars were 37th or slower. So they just don't want to run by themselves, it don't seem like.
Biffle, you see on the left of the box, trying to hang on to a top 20 qualifying effort here of 24. And that gap is growing. Fortunately, the flag is close by. Here he comes.
And that's when, as a crew chief, you're hollering, hurry, baby, hurry, baby, hurry.
20th. For Greg Biffle of 24. A Ford is fastest, and then it's 5 Dodges, 2 Chevys, and a Pontiac here at Talladega. We're halfway through Bud Poll qualifying, and the Chevrolets have yet to make an appearance in what would be the first 3 rows. Maybe that'll change with Jeff Gordon, who surprisingly has never won a pole at Talladega Superspeedway. He has just 1 front row start here. That came in this race in 1996, which he went on to win.
He's been solid here, though. He's qualified in the top 10 the last 3 races here, and was 4th in April.
He's also won here from 36th.
Once again, it backs up what you said. Don't matter sometimes where you start, it's just how you race.
11 top 10s in 21 Talladega starts. Last 2 races, he started in the top 5 here, though.
Still, it's amazing to me that Gordon, with 357 starts, is the all-time money leader with over $55 million of earnings. I mean, it's just unbelievable right there. This young man, he's won a ton of championships and a bunch of races, but $55 million in 327 starts, 57 starts is pretty remarkable.
His first lap, 51.22. That's a pretty good first lap for Jeff.
Yeah, that's 19th already, just on the strength of the first lap. Right now on pace for 5th, make that 4th quickest. And he has the 2nd fastest first lap of 2.
Finished 5th at Dover last week, and the amazing thing is that was his first top 5 finish since Indy back in early August. So maybe they're back on track.
Maybe, and then right now he's on track. He's picked it up now. They'll be about 3rd fastest if he can get on back to the line a little quicker. Now drop back to 4th.
And ends up 4th, 50.64. And that is the first Chevrolet in the top half dozen.
That's about what he ran in practice, just a little bit quicker, not much.
Matt Yoakum's with a driver who is the son of a champ himself, and he's going to try to race against his son here on Sunday.
The Jarrett family buckling in here on pit road. DJ, a big day for you and your family. Jason's car slated to go out right behind yours.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about this. Great opportunity for Jason to get his first Winston Cup start, and just thankful to Robert and Doug Yates and the entire organization for giving him this opportunity. You know, he's helped us out in testing a number of times, and this is kind of their payback for him. So we're pretty excited. Hopefully he'll get in a good run and be a pretty exciting day for us on Sunday.
And your car?
Car's pretty good. This car is a car that's never really qualified that well, that drives good in the race. So, but we were, I think, maybe in the top 15 in practice. So if we can keep that up, we'll be okay. And hopefully Elliott will stay on the pole.
Noted NASCAR statistician Russ Thompson told me he went through 2,834 driver names and came up with only 10 father-son combos to make a NASCAR Winston Cup Series race. If the Jarretts can pull it off this weekend, Mike, number 11, which would be kind of nice because that was Ned's old number.
That's right. Here's Terry Labonte, a winner here for Junior Johnson in '89 in one of the first restrictor plate events. Pole sitter here for Rick Hendrick in '95 and a winner in this race in 1997.
Guess who finished second to him in that race in 1997? Brother Bobby.
That's right. Brother won 2 finishes.
Yep. Going back to Dale Jarrett, you believe it's his 300th start this weekend?
300 consecutive
start.
Consecutive start. If you notice here, looking at Terry Labonte, little different paint scheme on the hood, the roof, and the deck lid. This is something that the R.J. Reynolds people are doing each week in NASCAR, and it's basically symbolic of some of the champions. And this Sunday in the pre-race, Terry Labonte will drive a car like basically painted like his championship year car, along with Bobby Allison as well.
They call it the RJR Victory Lap at every remaining race this year. One present, one active past champion, and one retired past champion being honored.
Bobby Allison, definitely one of the all-time greats, one of the purest racers I think I've ever watched drive a race car. He just was always fantastic when it comes to driving.
Well, and we talk about restrictor plates. How the restrictor plate came about was in 1987, right here on the front stretch about the start-finish line. Early in a race, Bobby Allison cut a tire down, just about went into the grandstands. That's when all of the cars were running well over 200 miles an hour. All of a sudden they said, you know what, maybe we need to do something to slow these cars down, so they went to the carburetor restrictor plate. They actually played with a 390 carburetor the other two races that year. The first time we ran a restrictor plate was at the 1988 Daytona 500. Guess who won that race? Bobby Allison.
Terry Labonte's going to be 10th quickest with a 50.89. And Terry Labonte in the fall race in 1997 with brother Bobby working it this way and that, but unable to pass the Kellogg Chevy in the run to the flag.
Terry was making that car what we call real wide.
Real wide. Elliott Sadler is fastest so far. He's the only Ford in the top 20. Dale Jarrett will be the 27th qualifier. His teammate, Elliott Sadler, is fastest. And Jarrett's first lap of 51.19.
So if he can pick up, you know, about 6/10, he'll be sitting in pretty good shape, actually.
That is the second fastest first lap. And it does put Jarrett in the top 20. He and teammate Elliott Sadler are the only Fords to sit in the top 20 right now. Kenny Wallace, Ward Burton locked into the field. As you see the numbers go by, everybody down through 14th place right now is in the EA Sports 500 on Sunday.
In 2003, Dale Jarrett and this 88 UPS group, they only have 3 top 10 starts total in the entire season.
See what kind of pickup DJ gets on lap 2. Good one. 5th fastest with a 50.64.
It is a good ride.
Pump up your brakes, buddy. Make sure you got a brake pedal.
Crew Chief Sean Parker back at the track last week at Dover. And good to see him back and suited up and playing hard.
That's exactly right. And you heard him telling Dale Jarrett to pump his brakes back up. What you do, you don't use any brakes here. And what they do, we talk about rolling resistance, is they will actually take a screwdriver and push the pads back a little bit from the rotor just to keep them rolling freer. But what you have to remember to do before you get back to pit road is get the brakes pumped back up and get the pads back out where the car stops.
Yeah, at 190 miles an hour, you do want to slow it down.
Here's Dave with the fastest Chevy driver so far.
And that would be Jeff Gordon. Pick up about 4 100ths over your lap earlier. Would it have been better, you think, if you'd gone a little later? Are you happy with that?
I don't know. I mean, they say that the wind's going to die down later, so, you know, really didn't catch a cloud or anything. It's more on principle than anything else, I guess. But, you know, we're just going to go with what we were dealt there. And, I mean, it's a good lap for us. We certainly picked up from practice. I was hoping to pick up a little bit more, you know, sitting 4th right now, and a lot of cars left to go.
Good place for him to start on Sunday, going for his 3rd win here. Mike?
So a Ford, 2 Dodges, and a Chevy in the front 4 right now. Another brand new paint scheme. This is the Robert Yates Ford R&D car. 3rd generation. Winston Cup driver Jason Jarrett, who qualified 14th for the ARCA race here tomorrow. He's run in the Busch Series, but this is his first Winston Cup attempt.
and he was 22nd in practice here today. And early on, I was standing there with Dale Jarrett, and he was talking about how surprised he was about his race car, but at the same time, when he looked up and saw his son's first lap out, he said, got to be something wrong. They had practiced better than that. They had a problem with the carburetor. Changed carburetors, got right back out there, had a good solid practice run, so they're looking for good things out of this number 98 car.
And Jason and Dale did race against each other one time before in a Busch Series race at Lowe's Motor Speedway in May of 1998. They qualified 11th and 12th. I think Jason was 11th and DJ was 12th.
Now, that's one thing Ned Jarrett never got to do, was race against his son, at least not at the top levels of NASCAR. Either Glenn, Dale's brother, or Dale.
He's a 51.54 on his first lap, which is only 27th quickest out of 28 cars. So if he'll pick up that 6 or 7 tenths, that should put him in good shape to be in this show. And you heard Dale Jarrett talk about a lot of testing. That's actually how he ended up getting this right. I talked to Doug Yates this morning, and he said, we brought this kid or boy down here testing 2 cars, and said he never stopped. He'd go from one car to the other all day long, never even stop to take a drink of water. And he said, you know, we need, there you see his dad, Dale Jarrett, watching this qualifying run. Doug said, you know what, we need to reward this kid by giving him a chance to run the Winston Cup race at Talladega.
He's going to be in the show.
Right there, 18th right now, if he can keep digging right here. Sure is, right there at 51 flat almost, 18th fastest.
And that's 3 Fords in the top 20, Dave.
And the consensus is in the show with that. What do you think of your kid?
That's pretty cool. I think it probably just now hit me more than any other time. You know, you just don't know what may happen, but Sunday will be a pretty special day. Jason's always been a special young man, and to have the opportunity to race with him here at Talladega on Sunday will be a day that I don't think we'll ever forget. And we got a good race car here, and I know he's got a good one, and Elliot's got a good one, so a pretty big day for Robert Yates Racing.
How much will you work with him now at all, or just you know, little stuff here and there, dad to son, about how to now race this race?
Yeah, kind of the way that we've been having it, that as he has questions, you know, I'm not going to go try to drill anything into his head. He's raced here before. Nothing like what he's getting ready to see on Sunday. But you know, if he has questions about things tomorrow in practice, then I'll help him as much as I can. I think the biggest thing will just keep him calm down, because it's going to be a big day in his life, and just let him know that, you know, 500 miles is here. You don't have to do everything at the start, and be there at the end, and then he can make his move and show what he can do. So should be fun.
We appreciate watching. It'll be fun for us to do that, Mike.
There's a proud dad for you. And he should be. Here is Dave Blaney in the number 77 Jasper Engines and Transmissions.
Dodge. I was just going to say, if you see it coming through the trial, you see the word Dodge. Now, again, this team normally runs the Ford Taurus. I talked to Booty Barker this morning, and remember, they are not necessarily a team car to the 2 Penske cars, but Penske Jasper Engine supplies the engines for this car, as well as Rusty Wallace and Ryan Newman. Booty said, you know, we've been struggling so much at the restrictor plate racetracks, maybe it was easier for that engine company for this restrictor plate race to supply 3 Dodge engines instead of 2 Dodge engines and a Ford engine, and maybe it will make us better.
Well, he told me right after practice was over with, we picked up a little bit, and I looked at the board, and it wasn't very good, but he said last time I was here with the Ford, I was dead last time, at least up a little bit off the bottom. Now they wound up actually being 42nd, but he feels like he didn't have the attitude quite right, but he was going to work on it between practice and qualifying to see if he could find some more speed in his car.
One other part of the equation might be that when Penske Jasper Engines built just Ford engines, they got considerable R&D help from the Ford engineers. Now that they built Dodges for Ryan Newman and Rusty Wallace and Ford engines for Blaney, it seems that that pipeline to the Ford engineering side has been squeezed to a trickle. Exactly. And maybe that's part of the reason why they have a Dodge here.
I think you've got to hit right on the head right there, Mike, because you've got to be able to get all the technical support. And wherever it comes from, you got to get all you can get. And whenever it looks like Dodge is going to give you more, I think you got to go that way, because it's really just a body on a race car.
I'm going to tell you what, they are struggling right here. You see right now as he comes through the trial, well, they're only showing 27th quickest, so they're probably going to be back in provisional land.
Dave Blaney, 27th fastest, 51.45. That is a full second off of Elliott Sadler's current pole time. The Brawny Dodge, our next qualifier, Kyle Petty, will be the 30th driver to take time. Twice he started here on the second row. That's for Felix Sabates in 90 and 91. He has one runner-up finish at Talladega in 44 starts. Qualified 8th this year, the first Richmond race, his best start of the year.
He made his very first Winston Cup start ever here in 1979. Had a good run, finished 9th that day.
Yeah, he won the ARCA race in February Daytona. And he said, well, come on, let's go to Talladega.
He was 25th quickest in practice, but he was definitely in practice the slowest of the Petty cars. See right here, he's showing 25th quickest. Coming through the trial to the line.
And Kyle is not that high up on the provisional list. So I'm not sure he has to get in on time, but it sure would help. 25th of 30 for Kyle Petty. And here's Dave with yet another Jarrett.
And that would be Jason Jarrett. Did I hear you use the word nervous here at Talladega?
Yeah, that's as nervous as I've been being out there by myself here at Talladega in a long time. But I think it was more excitement than it was anything else. Just having the opportunity to have a chance against race against my dad, have Robert, being a Robert and Doug Yates, Ford, and I don't know. It's just one of those things that I'm going to look back on one day, and it's going to still be exciting to me, 20 years down the road, and that's the kind of days I like to have.
Your dad looked up at the scoreboard. He saw your time up there, and he kind of got a lump in his throat. Does that surprise you?
He came over to me there before I got in, and just told me to be smooth and not make any mistakes. And he's done so much for me over the past 11 years. I think I kind of feel the same way.
Yeah, even if he said just that, guys, in his heart he was going, "Go, son, go!" And Jason did. Matty?
And back at Daytona in the 4th of July, Kyle Petty, owner, very verbal about his engine program. They seem to have picked it up, Jeff Green.
Yeah, Mike Egg and those guys went to work on the Dodge motors, and I didn't drive that car down there, so I really don't know. But Gary tells me it's basically the same body, same car. So I'm really proud for Petty Enterprises to come down here. We're unloaded. Second quick right off the truck, ended up 4th in practice. So hopefully we can get close to that again. Got to remember, it was 3 hours ago when we run last, so going late's not always the best thing to do, but hopefully a win will stay with us. And I think we got a shot of getting in the top 5 and the worst, hopefully top 10.
And remember, he does know about winning poles at plate tracks, sat on the pole for the Daytona 500.
Well, if paint jobs mean anything, that car is going to be fast. That's pretty cool.
It really is. When he came through garage today, I mean, it really caught my attention. That hood is pretty dramatic.
This was a paint design that was designed by motorsports artist Sam Bass,
who does a lot of paint jobs for many of the Winston Cup teams, and has a. Is that your coach driver, Larry?
It looks like Fat Boy.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised. You just never know.
Meanwhile, oh no!
Nice recovery.
Yeah. Okay, we're done. Ricky Rudd, the Motorcraft Ford of the Wood brothers. Gosh, when Ricky Rudd started running here, I can't even remember who was president, but it was 1976. Reagan? Was it the Reagan years?
Don't look at
okay,
me like
Gerald
that.
Ford. Sorry.
I was busy racing. I don't have any idea it was in the White House.
It was Jimmy Carter was elected in 1976, and Ricky Rudd appeared here in his own car. His dad's car started 20th, finished 23rd. Since then, he started on the outside pole here twice in 92 and 99, and he's had 4 third-place finishes.
Yeah, this will be his 54th Talladega start on Sunday, and he's one of about 5 drivers that has competed in all 63 restrictor plate races here in Daytona, but no wins. But the Wood brothers, they do have 5 wins here, the team that he drives for.
I did talk to his crew chief, Pat Trison, earlier today about this race car. It's a new car. They've just had it rebodied. They put a lot of work into it, but they really feel like they finally turned the corner with Ricky. They've made some changes with their road crew, got better communication going on, and they're finally starting to put up some results. They felt like they've raced well since Charlotte back in May, but they haven't been able to put the finishes down. But here recently they've been able to, and it's starting to look better for Ricky and the Wood brothers.
That was a 51.97 on his first lap, so He's going to have to pick up quite a bit, though, because even if he picks up, you know, 3/4 of a second, it's still only going to put him about 22nd, 23rd quickest. And he was 26th quickest in practice. And John Andretti in the 4th Richard Childress Racing car, the number 90 car, he has been locked into this field because he has beat 13 competitors.
Ricky Rudd picked up quite a bit right there, even though he's 22nd. Pretty good pickup right there, almost 8/10 of a second.
Rudd is 22nd, and that will lock Jason Jarrett into the top 36. For Sunday, he and his dad will start this race, the EA Sports 500. So as the Jarretts talk things over, we'll take a break and come back to Talladega, where 31 drivers have made attempts so far. 32 drivers on the clocks, including this one, Tony Raines and Bill Bumgarner's unsponsored Chevrolet. First lap of 51.76 for Raines, graduate out of the ASA and the Busch Series.
Notice that car right there, Larry, coming through the corners. It looked like it had a lot of what I would call porpoising, like the front nose and back end was not really riding the bumps very well, like he was losing a lot of time for that.
And that would have to be pretty much in the front shock, front spring package we were talking earlier. All the cars are mandated to run the same rear shocks that NASCAR actually hands out, and then you cannot be softer than 350 pounds of spring. You can be stiffer, but trust me, nobody's going to be stiffer. They're going to be right there on that line, because the softer the spring, the more you get the spoil out of there.
And Raines is pretty deep on the provisional list, so he's pretty much in a goer. It's not exactly a go or go home, but it's pretty close.
Picked it up quite a bit, though, to 51.06. That puts him 21st quickest.
And that will lock Christian Fittipaldi into the top 36.
He can beat a couple more cars, he'll be locked in, but you're right, it's going to be borderline on provisionals for Tony Raines.
Matt?
Dale Earnhardt Jr. walked out on the pit road waiting for his race car to come through NASCAR's inspection. First off, Junior, a very hard crash last weekend. How are you?
I'm doing good. Had a little bit of a concussion, but nothing really serious. The foot was the biggest thing. Just stayed off my foot for about 3 days. Iced it as much as I could, and swelling and all that. Got all that to go down, and as soon as the swelling went away, the pain went away. So got to where I could kind of walk on it a little bit, and should be just fine. You know, just want to concentrate on the race this weekend and get all that behind us. Try to get back second place in the points.
Now, we've talked a lot about your run here that you've had at Talladega, going for 5 in a row. Darrell Waltrip's won 7 in a row before. The Kings run 7 in a row, and Darrell won 5 in a row at Bristol. How special for you to get that mark here?
I was pretty excited to win 3 in a row and then 4 in a row. So not feeling a lot of pressure. It's just be a huge bonus if we could do it. Also to kind of, kind of make up, I guess, for a lot of the critics that weren't happy with a 4 in a row deal, and just try to, go out and do the best we can. We've got a, great race car, same stuff we always bring here, so I should be up front, should be battling for the win, and hopefully we don't have too hard a time like we did earlier this year and miss all the wrecks and just have a smooth day.
Temperatures dropping, 6th fastest in practice. How about your shot at the pole, Junior?
Well, I see the car coming here, and maybe the guys will take their time pushing it down here, and it'll keep dropping. So, yeah, the cooler the better.
Dale Jr. getting ready to run. Last week, Jeff, the wreck that Dale Jr. had at Dover after this spin didn't look from here like it was that hard a wreck, but looks can be deceiving.
It really is right there, Mike. The biggest thing is right there. The car hit pretty much just, really with a lot of force right on that driver's side. And as you get late in the race like that right there, a lot of things have a tendency to stretch. So that's kind of like part of the problem is as hard as his head probably popped off of that inside headrest closest to the door, it probably created that concussion situation.
Now he's on a stretcher there for precaution, but when they took him to the local hospital by helicopter, he jumped in, buckled himself in, so he was okay. Mild concussion and a very sore foot for Dale Earnhardt Jr. Mike Bliss, the defending champ in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, who chose not to defend that title, but spent the year competing in the NASCAR Busch Series, gets a one-race deal from car owner Joe Gibbs and is here with his number 80.
They tested down here, and longtime Joe Gibbs crew chief, who is more in a managerial role, Jimmy Maycar, is actually the crew chief for this group this week.
As a matter of fact, Larry, when I was down around the 80 car, I was watching, saw Jimmy down there, and noticed that a lot of the crew members looked to be a lot of the former crew members from the 18 car, which I think have now started like working in the shop, come off the road after winning their championship. But it was good to see Jimmy back at work, and a lot of the guys in that championship here working on the 80 car.
So a rare road trip for that crew. Bliss has 2 Winston Cup starts here with 1 top 10. And in his only Busch start at Talladega, started 7th and finished 5th.
Struggled in practice. They were only 48th quickest out of 49 cars. .51.53.
And that, unfortunately, has going home written on it.
Yeah.
So Elliott Sadler remains the quickest. 34th qualifier will be 2-time Talladega pole sitter Mark Martin, who swept the pole both ends of the 1989 season for Jack Roush and was a winner here in 95 and 97. He'll make his 36th Talladega start Sunday.
He was the fastest of the Roush cars in practice. We were talking about that earlier, 21st quickest.
Now with 15 cars to go, the situation for who goes home begins to clear. And this is all unofficial, but Mike Bliss, Larry Foyt, and Kevin LePage in the number 4 are not going to make the field for Sunday's EA Sports 500. Again, this is all unofficial. And on the hot seat could well be Tony Raines, Kyle Petty, and Todd Bodine. It all depends on what happens with Buckshot Jones and David Green, the 09 and 43 cars.
You know, Mike, you were talking about his 2 wins here, and I'm going to tell you what, and Mark picks it up quite a bit. He's going to be 12th quickest. That 1997 win, what made that win so unique is we talk about records and track records. It was a race record. They completed that 500 miles in 2 hours and 39 minutes. Caution-free, average speed, 188 miles per hour. I was working on that 3 car there right behind him that finished 2nd. But they covered that 500 miles in a hurry. No caution.
So Mark Martin is 12th. That puts 3 Fords in the top dozen. Elliott Sadler, who is currently quickest, Dale Jarrett, who is 5th, and Mark Martin, 12th.
You don't think it's not important to have that second lap and how it kind of works into play? Mark Martin picked up almost 1 full second on his second lap. I mean, that's a huge, huge pickup here at Talladega.
We've not had much chance to talk about it, but what about the new rule? No racing back to the caution, and the free pass for the first car a lap down when the caution comes out.
And it's going to be interesting here on Sunday, with even though there's not that many cars that goes a lap down, though, with this whole pack running together. There's a guy right there, Ryan Newman, that actually benefited from it. The very first race that it was a rule, came back after having a flat tire and going almost 2 laps down. But boy, he has had some tough times here, restrictor plate racing. This was here in April. Early in the race, had a cut tire, and you see what the aftermath was. Probably about 12.5 cars involved.
Yeah, his situation usually works out to be feast or famine. He's either in victory lane or he's upside down somewhere, and that's kind of like the way it turns out.
And that's why, as happened to his Penske teammate Rusty Wallace on 2 occasions, Newman is likely to win the most races this season, but not the Winston Cup.
But, you know, going back to what you were talking about, Mike, I think everything's great about the new rule. You know, we even saw the emergency workers being able to move quicker after the wrecks on Sunday, but I think the jury is out on this fact of free passes getting your lap back. You know, I think one thing that makes our sport interesting is if you get a lap down, you can get your lap back. You have been forever, but you know, the jury's out. Does a guy running back 25th in line, does he deserve to get his lap back?
Well, as we've often heard, Larry, it's a work in progress, and so is qualifying. We'll be right back. Jason Leffler in the Net Zero Pontiac has completed his run, and it's 31st of 35, 51.43 seconds. He led 6 laps here in 2001. But that is going to be provisional land and in danger of heading home for Leffler.
As you said earlier, Mike, and you were trying to explain it, so eloquently as the plot thickens. It's going to get kind of interesting here as we go toward the end of the day of who's going to be in trouble and who's not.
Now, Tony Raines is now locked into the field, so he dodges a bullet. And here's a look at Kurt Busch's season. Bristol, March 23rd. Checkered flag, American flag. Nice touch. California, April 27th. Caution flag and checkered flag. Michigan, June 15th. Win number 3. And back to Bristol. And he backs it up on Saturday night. 4 wins for Kurt Busch.
And, you know, to go with those 4 wins, he has about 4 or 5, I think, second-place finishes. But we've been talking about people hitting the brick wall, a lot like Jeff Gordon and some of these other guys, Bobby Labonte. These guys won that Bristol race, and, boy, it has been a tough road for this group since then. I talked to the crew chief, Jimmy Fenning. He said, Larry, we don't know what's going on. All of a sudden, our cars will not turn in the middle of the corner. We fight it everywhere we go. But they tested Kansas earlier in the week, like a lot of teams did. And he said, we think we found something that maybe we've been looking for, maybe we've been missing.
Irwin Tools, another Sharpie Rubbermaid, or Newell Rubbermaid brand, on the 97 this week. For Kurt Busch, who has never started in the top 10 here, but in his 5 Talladega starts, Busch has 3 top 5 finishes.
It's like he's ran well at the restrictor plate racetracks ever since his rookie season. I can remember the first time he ran the Daytona 500. He was right up there running like a 15-year veteran.
To me, the first time I remember watching him run any place as far as fast in Daytona was in the trucks. And that right there got my attention about his talent and his ability to get up there and mix it up.
This lap is going to battle Matt Kenseth for 5th among the Roush 5, and those two are going to take provisional spots away from a couple of teams that would otherwise need them, it looks like.
Yeah, he was only 38th quickest in practice. We talked about how most of the Roush cars did struggle in practice. See right there, he's only showing about 33rd quickest here as he completes his 2nd lap. He's going to actually end up 32nd quickest. And that puts Todd Bodine. We've now had 36 cars qualify. That puts Todd Bodine in the 54 car on the bubble.
Again, trying to chart the who's up, who's down, as Dale Jr. will be the next car to qualify. Cars that have not yet run toward the bottom of the provisional list include Buckshot Jones in the 00, the 60, the 09, and the 43. That'll kind of determine the provisional situation. Dale Jr. going for a full handful of consecutive wins at Talladega. 4 in a row. That is pretty remarkable on a super speedway.
It really is when you figure how many things are out of your control at a place like this.
And how many things can go wrong, how many times.
And I tell you, he's been on the mark qualifying here as well because he started 15th or better in 6 of his 7 starts. In fact, his average start here is just a little over 9th. But we talk about streaks, Jeff. We talk about him going for 5 straight. Chevrolet has won the last 9 races here, and 7 of those have been by an Earnhardt. 3 by Dale Earnhardt Sr. and 4 by Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Yep, 7 of the last 9 races right here at Talladega have been won by an Earnhardt. That's pretty impressive. He had a great teacher in Dale Sr. When it comes to winning at Talladega. He knew how to get it done.
4 top 10 starts in 7 attempts. 2 of those top 5, a 3rd and a 4th.
Now, guys, he talked a little bit, in an interview about how his foot had been hurting. And it was a lot better now, but they were actually working on a special shoe to try to make it to where it could accommodate the swelling that was still there earlier, about, I'd say, mid part of the week. Yeah, actually, his head was feeling pretty good, but his foot was still, bothering him. And having to make pit stops here could be a problem for him, having to come down pit road, shift, get on the brakes, if that foot is still kind of tender.
He's get up to speed lap 60.48. We've seen laps quite a bit quicker than that. We'll see what his first lap here is going to be. He's going to be 35th quickest at a 51.52. So even if he picks up 3/4 of a second, which certainly is achievable, then we know, he's probably going to end up somewhere in the top 10. How about it, Matt?
Well, a 51.52, Tony Eury Jr. on that first lap, please.
Yeah, I mean, that's about what we've done in practice. We should pick up about 7 tenths here. if we run a 50-70, we're going to be tickled because we really ain't been pushing the issue on the qualifying. We just want to get a good starting spot. Top 10 would be great for us.
Now, looking at the race car in the garage this morning, I noticed a few changes to the inside. What have you guys done to the cockpit of the race car?
Well, I mean, we've finally talked him into going to the more of the headrest like the rest of the guys got. It just helps out when you're in a situation like we were last weekend. It just protects the driver a little bit more, and it'll take him some getting used to, but eventually it'll be better for him, and we're really happy and excited that he let us do it.
Different helmet?
Yeah, we were using a Bell helmet this week. Just something to try, you know. We're not saying one's better than the other. We're just trying some different things out that the NASCAR has told us is a little bit better, so that's what we're doing.
Looking at different options, and by the way, you qualified 10th.
Good, great deal.
10th so far for Dale Jr.
That was a big bullet for Elliott Sadler to dodge, though.
Yes, it was. Jeff Burton, our next qualifier in the Roush Racing Citgo Ford. Jimmy Spencer's been locked into the top 36. He is right now 24th quickest. Elliott Sadler's still fastest.
Todd Bodine has been bumped out of the top 36, and that puts Mike Bliss on the bubble, so it's not looking very good for that third Joe Gibbs car, Mike Bliss.
Well, it looks like the going homers will include Bliss, Foyt, and LePage. And on the hot seat is Kyle Petty right now. There are 7 cars lower on the provisional list than Kyle right now, but that includes 4 cars that have not yet been on the speedway. So here's Burton, who has a 3rd place start in 1999 as his best at Talladega.
See, there we keep up with the temperatures. The air temperature has not changed, but because the sun's going down, that track temperature has dropped 11 degrees, and that can definitely maybe not make as much difference here as some places, but it can make a difference. We heard Jeff Gordon complaining about that earlier, having a late draw because not a lot of cars were through inspection. He had to go a little earlier, and Jeff Burton, he's in provisional land as he qualifies, so Mike Bliss still hangs on.
That's 3 of the Roush cars are going to take 3 of the 7 provisionals here.
But we saw that same thing happen at Daytona. These guys didn't qualify well there, but when it came time to go racing, they were right there at the top of the list.
Look at the 5 right there. Probably the only 2 that are probably safe to be in the fastest 36 is Mark Martin and possibly Greg Biffle, his teammate.
Here's Matt.
And Rusty Wallace, you were talking about how inspection takes forever here.
It does, man. I've been out standing out here for an hour and a half. I said, where's my car? Where's my car? And finally it shows up. But guys did a good job, and hopefully it'll run great. It ran good in practice. We ran a 80-something, and hopefully it'll run quicker than that right now. Everything looks good.
Now, how do you think the track temperature will fall into play here? Because the sun's behind the clouds, and the temperature's dropped about 11 degrees from the start of qualifying.
Honestly, I don't think you're going to see anything. If this was Atlanta or a short track or some type of high downforce grippy track, yeah, that's big. But here at Talladega, I don't think you're going to see anything. I watched it at Daytona go from extreme to extreme, and it doesn't seem to affect it a lot. But I'll tell you what, when it cools down, it makes the driver in a cruise chief think it's going to do something. That pumps you up.
How big would a win be for you here? You've never won a plate race.
Oh, man, let me tell you what. I need a win so bad it's unreal. A win for me would cure cancer if I had it, I'll guarantee you.
It'll come.
I was getting ready to say, I don't think you can say it much better than that.
It'll come.
Yeah, I mean, right now, plate win would be special, but considering it's been 90 races since Rusty Wallace went to victory lane, I'm sure he'd take a win anywhere at any time.
Here's David Green, and this is an important part of the who stays and who goes equation. Former Busch Series champ in the Haas, number 60. Started 21st and finished 32nd in the Pepsi 400 for this team. He has 2 top 10s in 9 Busch Series starts here.
He was 10th fastest in this morning's earlier practice, so you know, he definitely has showed he's had some speed. And what he can put down here right now, his first really official lap of time, it puts him back here still at 39th, so he needs to pick it up quite a bit.
And this is actually more or less like a 5th Hendricks car. Hendrick car, Hendrick engine. You talked about their run at Daytona. They had a great qualifying run here in the spring, but you have to go through inspection before qualifying and after qualifying, and they give you a little bit of height tolerance after qualifying, a 1/4 inch. They exceeded that 1/4 inch. They were disqualified. Their time was disallowed. They had to load up and go home. They did test down here, though, as well a few weeks ago.
And David's on the go or go home plan. They don't have enough provisional points with this car number.
Be in good shape, Mike.
To make the show on a provisional, but like you say, you shouldn't need it, Larry. Should be all set.
17th quickest right now as he completes his second lap.
If that number is 26 or better, he's in the show, and he is.
18.
So David Green is in the race Sunday. That may have just sent Kyle Petty home. Steve Park in the AOL Chevy will be the 40th of 49 qualifiers. Elliott Sadler quickest, Jamie McMurray, Sterling Marlin, and Jeff Gordon.
Yeah, for some reason, this team really struggling here this weekend, and this team sat on the pole for the Daytona 500 with Jeff Green we talked about earlier, and sat on the pole in Daytona in July with Steve Park. But right now, he's already in provisional land at the end of his second lap. So
he's not going to be happy with that at all.
Yep, definitely from the penthouse to the outhouse as far as restricted plate qualifying for this AL number 30 car.
And as Ryan Newman comes out, things are changing in the who stays and who goes list. Larry Foyt, with Steve Park's run now, only has to beat one more car to make the field because Foyt does not have a provisional. Earlier we said he was probably headed home, but he may be in the show. Now here's Ryan Newman 1 week ago at Dover. What a great battle between he and Jeremy Mayfield in the closing laps.
This was some awesome racing. This is what racing was all about. Guys beating on each other. Right there at the end, Ryan Newman going to bring it on home.
I've never heard a second-place driver so unhappy in a long, long time as Jeremy.
Or a third-place driver.
But Jeremy gave it his all. Yeah. But Ryan Newman was just too strong when it counted. Picked up the win.
But I'm going to tell you what, how strong has Ryan Newman been the last 17 races of this year? He's went from 27th to 5th in points, 13 top 10 finishes, 10 top 5, and 6 wins.
You don't get much better than that, with one exception, if he was leading the points.
And I'm going to tell you what, he's got a great get up to speed lap.
Wow.
He's in that 59-second bracket, too.
We haven't seen very many cars right now break into that 59-second lap so far, so this may be a really strong test for Elliott Sadler.
Well, now, does that really tell you the strength of the car, or does it have a lot to do with gear choice and maybe transmission intermediate gears?
Well, this next lap is going to kind of give us that indication right now, Mike, because what you're alluding to, if he's got a pretty low gear, he could maybe get up to speed quicker, but now he needs for the car to kind of like release and go on and gain more speed as he makes his second lap. So we'll get a pretty good indication on this second lap of what he's got left here.
Boy, the restrictor plate races, they have not been good to this group. We saw the wreck earlier here in the spring, the big wreck in the Daytona 500. This is the third car of the year for these guys for restrictor plate racing.
51.53 on that second lap.
So if he picks up 3/4 of a second, that could put him there in the latter part of the top 10.
And if he was able to pick up a full second, he would be kind of like, getting Elliott's attention, but still may not be quite enough. I mean, you know yourself, Larry, to pick up a second here is huge, but he could be done.
And if you notice, Ryan, I'm seeing a little different strategy even on his second lap. He was not around the bottom of even the back stretch. He's running up the racetrack a little bit. Of course, he's right around the bottom here through 3 and 4 in the corners.
Letting the car run a little bit free there.
See right there, it keeps coming down, down to 13th quickest. Comes through the tri-oval. Well, if he can get to the top 10, he's had 21 top 10 starts this year.
12th it is for Ryan Newman.
This week?
50.85.
Well, guys, I'm curious. You think somebody should go down and wake up Elliott Sadler and tell him to kind of like wash his face and maybe comb his hair?
It's not over till it's over.
It's not over till it's over, but this right here.
It's kind of interesting that all of Ryan's crew are wearing Goodyear caps today because you remember Ryan after last week's race said, boy, he said Goodyear gave us a great tire.
But Tony Stewart wasn't very happy, so yeah, maybe there is a subliminal message being kind of extended out here. They kind of like believe in Goodyear because they didn't take on any tires right into that race.
The Goodyear engineers responded to Stewart's comments by saying, we take this very seriously. We're going to meet with Tony and Greg Zippodelli and their team and try to get to the bottom of this. Stewart was unhappy that one set of tires appeared to be very inconsistent, and Tony thought very vocally cost him a chance at the win.
And you know, for whatever reason, I talked about this earlier in the week on Totally NASCAR, it seems like that has always existed at Dover since they went to concrete in 1995. Maybe to more extreme than others on some weekends, but it has somewhat always been there, Jeff.
But it's always been there. Mike, you've been around racing a long time, and you've heard a lot of drivers complain throughout the years, hey, I got a bad set of tires. It's just a part of the sport. You go through so many tires. How can they all be perfect? And these cars sometimes are so much on that razor's edge about being good or being bad that sometimes you can get off just a little bit.
Rusty Wallace on track in the Miller Lite Dodge. And to quell some of that criticism, NASCAR a couple of years ago instituted a procedure where the teams can no longer go to the tire truck and pick out their own tires. The tires are assigned by a NASCAR official completely at random.
And one thing that Goodyear has done, because we used to be very careful about looking at this, the tire rate is on the tires, but they've taken the manufacturer date off of the tires. That's something we used to pay close attention to, trying to get tires that was all made together on the same set. Rusty, his get up to speed lap is a 60:31 as he comes to complete his first lap.
And by the way, to finish off Dover, congratulations and thanks to Dennis McGlynn and his staff for doing everything they could to minimize the effects of Hurricane Isabel, so that once NASCAR took the very brave and correct step of canceling Friday activity, the whole rest of the weekend went off without a hitch at Dover.
Rusty's first lap, 51.83, so if he picks up the 3/4 of a second, he's just barely going to be in the top 25. Rusty earlier this week announced that he's going to be a car owner now in the Busch Series, because they're going to run on a part-time schedule with Billy Parker, who is Hank Parker Jr.'s brother. We talk about Rusty never winning here. He did win here in 1980 in the old NASCAR Super Speedway Modified Division. Beat some pretty stout guys that day, Richie Evans, Harry Gant, Neil Bonnet, so he has won a race here at Talladega.
28 for Wallace at a 51.19. He's in the show somewhere back about the 16th, 17th row or so. And the fellow who's hanging by his fingernails right now is Larry Foyt. Foyt is not in the show. If his time is better than one more of the remaining cars, Larry will race on Sunday. Otherwise, he's headed home. A couple of strong guys yet to go here at Talladega. Welcome back to Talladega, where Jeff Green has the Petty's number 43 Dodge. This is the Yu-Gi-Oh paint scheme, a popular animated TV show and trading card game.
Got Yu-Gi-Oh, guys.
Is that it? Yu-Gi-Oh? It means let's duel. Yu-Gi-Oh.
I've heard it say Yu-Gi-Oh, I've heard it say Yu-Gi-Oh. Something it's kind of like if you're talking to a 5-year-old or a 12-year-old.
On one side is that guy. I'm not even going to try to say it. And on the other side...
And you would be in which category, Jim?
It's his main rival. And I'm not trying to say his name either.
It doesn't matter.
Pokemon was so easy to say. I don't know what happened. Pikachu.
That is quite a busy paint scheme right
wow. There. Well, let's see if it's quick enough. And again, Robbie Gordon is locked into the field. These drivers crawling across the top of the screen are headed for provisional land or home. Jeff Green, white flag, lap 38. And he should get enough of a pickup to make the race.
51.47, so if he picks up about 7/10, he'll be pretty strong. But Dave, can you help us with this paint scheme?
One of those kids down on pit road can help us.
Yeah, I checked with a 10-year-old, and according to a 10-year-old, it's Yu-Gi-Oh.
And so what is his rival's name? It's K-A-I-B-A, K-A-B-A or something. That's his name.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm asking a dad. You know the rival's name?
K-A-I-B-A.
K-I-B-A? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we'll have a 30-minute special on that.
That's right. Sorry, guys, I can't help you with that. But Yu-Gi-Oh, according to a 10-year-old.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad we got that.
They're animated characters. We do know that.
I can read Dodge.
Right now, Jeff Green right now is doing a really good job of getting this number 43 car in the race. So
it's going to be a good run. 13th quickest.
50.86. And Matt, Yu-Gi-Oh, Yu-Gi-Oh, what is it?
Yokomo.
I think that means the fastest guy in practice, Chad Knaus's car, driven by Jimmy Johnson. Now, your crew chief's trying to hurt you here, first off, tripping you.
Yeah, I'll get him back. I get to drive the car, so I'll get revenge somehow.
Now, how about your race car? You told me you talked to Chad when you walked out. What did he say?
He wasn't too happy with what happened going through the room, so I imagine that means we're not going to go as fast as we hope to. but you never know. Guys have been working hard, and you always take some stuff off and go a little faster anyway, so hopefully it'll all wash out and we end up running the same time that we did in practice. If we do that, we're in great shape, but regardless, everybody at Hendrick Motorsports has put in such an effort. We're going to be in the top 10, and I think all the Hendrick cars are going to be up there in the top 15. It's going to be a great race for us all on Sunday.
Now, between the two of you, Nemechek and Johnson, you guys have started on the pole here 4 times, but you told me your biggest concern now may be the wind.
The wind has definitely picked up. I figured going late, the skies would calm down, the wind gods would calm down. The cars, you have what you have. The temperature isn't, track temp isn't a big deal. Outside air temperature affects them, and the wind really affects the speed. So right now it's kind of changed. I don't think it's helping the backstretch as much as it's hurting the front. So we'll just have to do the best we can, and you never know.
And a big day for you?
Big day.
Any candles?
Oh, yeah, lots of candles today. Big 4-0 today.
Oh, come on. 40, really?
I'm catching you.
Catching me, please. No matter how old or young you say you are, you're always going to be older than me.
I'll be younger than both of you. So
You'll be
I'll
younger
than both
right.
of you.
And Kevin Harvick's on the track.
Mom goes, hell, heck, I'm only 20 years older than you. So, no, it's neat. You just take that age, and it's experience. See, he doesn't have the experience yet. I got experience.
And I'll go back to Mike Joy, who has a lot of experience.
Thank you, Matt.
Oh.
It's only a flesh wound. Kevin Harvick, whose runner-up start and finish here in the spring, by far the best of his 9 attempts at Talladega. 44th at the white flag.
51.72.
And still, Larry Foyt. Right now, 30 drivers are locked into the field. Larry is 31st. And he's running out of chances. There are 6 cars left to qualify, including Harvick, between go and go home.
You know, Mike, you talked about him finishing second here in the spring. That's about where the season turned around for this dude right here. And they got on this tear they've been on during the summer months here, early fall. Of course, moving up to second points after Dover, his highest ranking ever in Winston Cup points. And, right now it appears that's what the battle for Pop is for second.
Harvick's going to be in the show here. That's about 4 spots better than Larry Foyt sits right now. He can hold station of the line, and he does. Kevin Harvick is 27th quickest. That means now 31 drivers are locked in down through Robbie Gordon.
You heard Joe Nemechek and Jimmy Johnson talking about the wind, and they're right. All of a sudden, we're looking at the flags here. And what I'm seeing, Jeff, it's not a direct headwind down the front stretch. It's more of a crosswind blowing over toward turn 4. So it really wouldn't be a tailwind down the backstretch or a headwind, but it definitely, at almost 200 miles an hour, it can definitely, Dave Burns, play with these cars around this 2.5-mile racetrack.
Well, I want to check with you crew chief types on something I heard down here, too. In the wind tunnel, in the perfect world of most wind on the front of the car, the guys have found that the air into the cowl is better in the perfect world. And if you have any competing air going across or around the car, it sometimes disturbs the air around the cowl, and they don't make as much horsepower.
You're exactly right there, Dave. As you sit there, and this is one of the apparatuses that are on top of the trucks a lot of times to measure that wind direction and speed. What happens is when it crosses over or basically disturbs the air that's flowing over the car, as far as the cow's concerned, it can actually pull the air out of the carburetor, and when that happens, especially in restrictor plate racing, it can hamper your horsepower or hurt your horsepower. That's what you don't need to have happen, and we're going to find out here in a minute whether this 00 Buckshot Jones is going to hurt him or not, because he needs to get in this race. He's one of the guys that doesn't have any points.
Crown Fiber Communication Chevy, as Buckshot Jones returns to the circuit in a 1-race ride, and this could well decide whether he or Larry Foyt heads for the house. Foyt cannot take a provisional. He's out of them. If Buckshot Jones is slower than Foyt's 51.23, Larry's locked in. If Buckshot is faster,
Talk to his spotter, because I heard tell that Larry McReynolds is going to be spotting for Buckshot Jones this weekend. If we can get him in the race, Larry, come on, talk to him.
We can get him in the race. We'll be up there on top of the grandstand spotting for him in the happy hour practice tomorrow. You'll see on Speed Channel and the Winston Cup race on Sunday. His get up to speed lap, not that fast, 61.07. He was right there on borderline In practice, he was 36 quickest. Now, we need to document, Mike, this car is owned by Michael Waltrip, and it's a car that's leased from Dale Earnhardt Incorporated with a Dale Earnhardt Incorporated engine, and right now Buckshot is scheduled for 2 races with Michael here and at Atlanta, Georgia in about a month.
And you talk about Michael Waltrip. I was down around Buckshot's car during practice today. Michael came down, was coaching, talking about where the car needed to be as far as on the white line, where to avoid the bumps, really working with this young driver to try to let him know through what experience Michael has here at Talladega, how to get every ounce of speed out of this car.
Yeah, they tested down here, felt like they had a good test, but they could not come within a half a second in practice today of what they tested here a couple of weeks ago. First lap 51.56, so if he can pick up, 7/10, that should put him in the show, should it, Mike? Should put him in good shape.
Larry, half a second would put him in.
Yeah.
He ran at Daytona in the Pepsi 400 in the 09 car for James Finch, started 19th and finished 17th. He has 5 starts here at Talladega with a best finish of 16th twice.
And he had a great run at Daytona driving for James Finch. They were one of the cars that had to make a late race fuel stop, so I definitely don't think his finish was indicative of how they ran all night long.
If he does like what most cars have done here so far, he'll pick up about 6 or 7/10. He should be solidly in the show.
And cars dangerously close to the hot seat now include Jason Leffler, Todd Bodine, and maybe even Kenny Wallace.
Did lap. Good. Looks like I'm going to get to work on Sunday. 16th quickest for Buckshot. Good lap.
That means that all 3 of the teams that came in here brand new running their first races of the season are in the show.
I've never spotted at Talladega before.
Oh, no. Really changed the go home situation, as it looks now as if Mike Bliss, Larry Foyt, Kevin LePage, Kyle Petty, and Jason Leffler, and perhaps Todd Bodine may be headed to the house, depending what happens in these final 4 qualifiers. Joe Nemechek, the UAW Delphi Chevrolet, hoping for a birthday present here.
Old front row Joe, I keep hearing his name being mentioned. We know that he is not going to be driving this 25 car next year. And as I was standing around there earlier today kind of looking that crew over, I realized that there are a lot of veteran crew members down there. David McKay and Ed Guzzo, it's just a lot of really, Peter Suspenzo's a crew chief. They've got a lot of veteran crew members down there, and that may be another one of the reasons why Rick Hendrick is saying, hey, this may be the time to move this young driver up here. Well, I got all these really great mechanics working on this 25 car to try to educate and develop his talents.
And I tell you, I've talked to Joe a little bit, and he's not happy certainly about losing this ride, but he has a good outlook and attitude about it. He knows that this sponsorship on here, UAW Delphi, is going away, and that the sponsorship on Brian Vickers' Busch car wanted to move to Winston Cup, and they wanted their young driver to move with them.
And that's okay, but now here's a driver. You don't often see a situation, Larry, where a driver who has won a race is released at the end of the season, although I hear Joe's name in the running for the second Cal Wells seat. If sponsorship materializes, he could end up as teammate for Ricky Craven next year. But the good thing about Nemechek's situation is he's in a good car, and every race from here on out is an audition.
It really is. But his attitude really speaks volumes about his confidence in himself and what he can do and what he's trying to do and continue to do with this race team. I mean, it's really speaks volumes about his character and his determination to win races.
46 quickest, of course, on his first lap, 51.71. He was 4th quickest in practice. I don't think he's going to come close to that. Right now you're seeing as he heads here to the front stretch, he's about 26 quickest. About a half a second off of Elliott Sadler's pole run right here as he exits the trial.
But that's going to be solidly in the show, Nemechek at 26th place. So he is in. And as the crawl goes across, everybody down through 33rd place, Robbie Gordon has locked in a spot, and still Larry Foyt sits 1 spot away.
I'm going to tell you, I see Jeff Gordon sitting there in 4th, and I just have to talk about this because I think Jeff was complaining about a late draw and not getting to go late, but what I'm seeing, whether it's the win or whatever, nobody going late in this session is running that fast, so maybe
he got lucky.
Exactly.
He got lucky. He had a good point, but he still may have got lucky.
He made his point and then benefited from things going the other way. Well, that's okay. Jimmy Johnson on the pole here last fall, but trouble right at the front of the race here as they came around on the pace lap. I think that's Mark Martin coming across Johnson's bow. A little damage to the right front there.
Yeah, Mark was basically warming up his tires right at the start of the race, and they had a problem, they felt like, with the steering box on this particular car. And it actually, when he went to the left, it just kept going left, and he ran right into the right front fender of Jimmy Johnson, and both cars had to come to pit road.
I think, Jeff, didn't it have something to do with the way the power steering pump operated at low speeds, at low RPM?
Sure did.
Well, teams run power steering. They know that power steering robs horsepower from these restrictor plate engines, so they do some pretty creative things with the pulley and with the volume of the pump, and you always question, was that maybe one of the things that was going on?
So here's the situation. Robbie Gordon, 33rd fastest, locked in. 3 cars left to run. If all 3 are slower than the present top 36, Larry Foyt and Kyle Petty get to race on Sunday.
You know, Mike, you were talking about Hurricane Isabel a while ago up at Dover, Delaware. Jimmy Johnson's sponsor, Lowe's, they committed $48 for each lap that Jimmy Johnson completed at Dover last week. Well, since he finished 8th on the lead lap, they donated to the Red Cross for the support of the hurricane victims $69,200 for every lap, which was all of the laps last week at Dover.
Boy, that's terrific, because the path that that hurricane took certainly ripped right through the heart of racing country in eastern North Carolina and right through the heart of Virginia.
Well, we will see what this racetrack has in it right now. You saw Jimmy Johnson was the fastest at a 50.31, which that would be a 10th quicker than pole sitter Elliott Sadler right now. So we'll definitely see if this racetrack has it in it.
And I guess I'm showing my age, as Matt Yoakum pointed out earlier, because it's all racing country now.
That's it.
Exactly. It's NASCAR
right.
Nation.
Border to border, coast to coast, and then beyond.
Jimmy Johnson, twice a pole sitter in 3 Talladega races, never started worse than 7th here. Never finished better than 7th.
We talk about streaks at Talladega. His crew chief, Chad Knaus, has 4 consecutive poles here. In 2001 with Stacy Compton, and last year both races, even though one of them was a rain out, starting by points, but Chad Knaus's car started on the pole for 4 consecutive races here, 2001, 2002.
Fastest man in practice, as they pointed out, had a little trouble, let's not call it trouble going through inspection, but let's say some adjustments were made.
Mike, they don't call it the room of doom for nothing. And as a former crew chief, when you start to roll in there, everything that you've tried to take advantage of, and let's go ahead and face it, folks, that's our job, is to try to get through there so we can make our cars go fast. And when we go in there, every now and then it's, well, I'm sorry, sir. Yes, sir. I'll fix that, sir.
His get up to speed lap was a 60.26. Remember, we've seen some laps down in the high 59s, around 60 flat. And right now we're seeing, as he comes off turn 4, he's about 3/4 of a second off Elliott Sadler, but this is his first lap. He'll have 1 lap to go. Boy, this is going to be a pretty good first lap for Jimmy Johnson, 51.29. So if he picks up
3/4 of a second, put him pretty close there, partner.
Pretty close. He's got to pick up basically 9/10 to be on the pole. You see right there, his first lap is the 4th quickest first lap that's been ran. Right here into the backstretch, he's 5th quickest. We'll see if it can come down. Normally you get a little bit quicker as you go into this lap. Staying pretty solid at 5th right now. Down to 4th quickest.
Down to 3rd.
Let's see if he can do it. Right now, he looks like he's on track, maybe at least be on the front row in some capacity.
He's definitely digging hard as he come back to the front straightaway and the start-finish line.
Row 2, 3rd quickest, 50.61. 2/10 off of Elliott Sadler's time, which is held up for a long qualifying session. 2 cars to go. Welcome back to Talladega. 2 cars left to qualify, Mike Wallace and Jason Keller. 4 of the 5 Roush cars will use provisionals to get into the EA Sports 500 on Sunday, including point leader Matt Kenseth. This is Mike Wallace driving for James Finch, the Miccosukee Indian Casino number 09. Mike Wallace finished 9th here in 2001 in the spring race. His best qualifying effort here, 14th in 10 starts.
And normally this, of course, the James Finch team that runs all the Busch Series races with the #1 car. They normally just run the restrictor plate races, but they're going to run a handful of the remaining of the Winston Cup schedule, including Kansas next week. They were out there testing with Mike Wallace earlier in the week. Mike was 27th quickest in practice, first lap 51.54. So if he picks up 6 or 7 tenths, he'll have a good run going.
Actually, Larry, he needs about 3 tenths to make the field, to get into the field.
Mike running that low line down the backstretch, covering the shortest amount of distance. It's going to be a pretty good lap for Mike. You see right there coming off turn 4, he's only about 4 tenths off the pole speed, showing 25th, 26th quickest. Ernie Elliott does the motors for this group as well.
And it shows. It's going to be a good run. It's going to put Mike Wallace solidly in the show. 24th.
Good run.
Here's Matt.
And Chad smiling about as much as Steve Berge, the guy who works these bodies, massages these bodies here in the plate program. What do you think about third, Jimmy?
It's good. It's definitely a good, solid effort. Just with all the effort that's gone into it, I wish that we would have been on the pole. I know everybody in the garage areas want the same thing, but I just feel, my guys try harder, I guess. But a good effort for us. We knew, I guess I should say I knew when I came back to the car, getting ready to climb in, Chad did have a big grin on his face that we went through the room and got, had some things taken away from us. But it's the game, and qualifying third, we're going to be up towards the front. Hopefully we there with the way the rules package is going to be and the way we're going to race, we can stay out of trouble and get the victory lane. That's the big thing.
And Chad was telling me he was very pleased about how you have really matured as a plate driver.
The only way you get experience is by being out there. And the 125 race in Daytona in my rookie season, I went below the yellow line, didn't advance through the 125. Fortunately, we're on the pole, and I was able to do it there. But, from that race on and how uncomfortable I was and the experience the Busch Series gave me, I've come so far. And I've learned a lot, and I think that we'll be one of the guys up front racing for the win like we've been here all year long at all these plate races.
Now, learning-wise, as far as the new rules package, how big will tomorrow's final practice session be?
It's going to be real big for me. I haven't been in a high-drag, big restrictor plate car. From the Busch Series into the Winston Cup Series, it's almost been the same package. So this is going to be a new experience for me tomorrow when I'm able to get in the car with the big plate and the high-drag car.
Now, I think you may need to go find Berge because I know he's hanging his head low with a third and fifth on those two cars. That's not bad.
He's bummed, and there's a lot of guys back at the shop watching that wish that we would have been a little better. But I want to thank them all for their hard work in the bodies and also below underneath the hood, the engines.
And we understand there is an issue taking place in the garage. Dave Burns.
We'll get with Dave in just a moment. There may be an issue with one of the cars that has already qualified in post-qualifying inspection. We'll keep you updated as Jason Keller takes to the track. Remember, Jason had an opportunity earlier in the year to run here in Winston Cup, and this weekend he is the driver of the Pennzoil Chevy.
And Mike, we've been talking about Larry Foyt. Jason Keller is the last car to qualify. We've been talking about Larry Foyt consistently during this latter part of the qualifying. Looks like he will make this show possibly on Sunday.
He's still on the timesheet, Larry. He's still one spot away. But if there is an issue and one of the cars should fail post-qualifying inspection, that would put Foyt in the field. Let's see what Jason Keller does.
And normally if a car fails the post-race inspection, we talked about David Green in the spring, it's normally to do with the height of the car being too low, especially on the quarter panels, or possibly spoiler angle being below 55 degrees. Normally, though, it's those quarter panel heights they measure. They give you a quarter-inch tolerance to begin with, and if you're beyond that, then they pretty much will disqualify.
Now, Keller would have enough provisional points available to make the show if he's not able to crack the top 36. So this is only his first lap, and we'd expect it to be in the high 40s as it is. Contender for the Busch Series title on several occasions, drives for Greg Pollux and PTC Racing in what this year is the Albertsons Ford, and still in contention for that championship.
He attempted to make the Chicago race a couple of months ago in the Chance 2 car that's owned by Dale Earnhardt, Teresa Earnhardt, and they missed the show. They did test down here, felt like they had a pretty good test, and had pretty high hopes here of coming and qualifying, at least racing good on Sunday. He's coming on down. He's coming on down in a hurry there.
And I think we've got a little issue with our pace chase. Yes. See what the clock says as Jason Keller completes his lap. And hopes to make it into the Winston Cup field for Sunday. 100 yards to go. Did it. 32nd. 51.11. And Jason Keller is in the field. Now, Matt Yoakum on that developing story.
Well, Mike, an issue has taken place with post-qualifying inspection concerning Dale Earnhardt Jr. Chevrolet. The Urys, Tony Sr. and Jr. working under the hood. Tony Sr., what's the problem?
They got the quarter height sticks. You got to be able to get through that room when qualifying's over, and undoubtedly we didn't make it, so they disallowed our time. They allow you a quarter inch to drop during qualifying. We fell 5/16, so they disallowed our time, and we got to take a provisional.
How do you think that could have happened?
Hey, stricter plate racing, baby. You got to get all you can get, and we just got too much.
Well, he'll have to start at the back. And remember, Jeff Gordon won here from 36 back in the year 2000, so it can be done. But it will be a great drive for Dale Earnhardt Jr. from the back to the front. Today, Burns.
Well, I'm with the guy who's on the pole, and hopefully his inspection goes a little bit better. But you haven't even been watching, have you?
No, I've been actually playing 2004 NASCAR all day. I just didn't want to watch. It's too nerve-wracking to go out that early and try to wait through everyone. But, man, it's pretty cool. I kind of like coming to Talladega, putting on the pole.
What track were you racing?
We were doing seasons, so we were running a bunch of other tracks, but it's just so good to put the M&M Sport Tours on the pole. Todd Parrott's first pole coming back. Raymond, all the guys in the shop, the Fab guys, the motor room, thank you so much. DJ qualified good. Jason's in for his first race, and he came in here and tested. We used a lot of his notes, so we got to thank him a lot for coming on board with us. And just cool to get M&M's another pole and on a speedway. So I always wanted to do it. Got a lot of Robert Yates fan here in Alabama, so it's a cool place to do it at.
Mikey will make his ninth start here at Talladega from the pole.
Sadler is the pole winner, and Larry Foyt with Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s disallowed time. Larry's in the field. We'll have the whole list when we come back. Back to Talladega, where Elliott Sadler has won the pole, and Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s time, which would have been 11th, ends up being disallowed for a height violation in post-qualifying. Jamie McMurray takes that Davey Allison commemorative paint scheme to the outside of the front row.
Ford Dodge Chevrolet, the top three there.
Parody, how about that? And then it's Dodge Chevrolet Ford. Imagine that. DJ with a good qualifying run alongside Jeff Gordon. Outside the top 10, defending champ Tony Stewart and the winner of the most races this year, Ryan Newman.
Buckshot Jones, good to see him back. Good to see that qualifying run. How about that 43 car? Jeff Green inside row 7.
Very solid. I look back through 21 to 30. Good run for David Green, Mike Wallace, John Andretti, and Jason Jarrett will race with his dad on Sunday. That's pretty neat. Larry Foyt gets the final spot, hanging on by his fingernails. He's in there. And the provisionals, 4 of the 7, are going to be Roush cars and Dale Jr. The going home list, some good cars. Jason Leffler, Kevin LePage, Steve Park, Kyle Petty, Todd Bodine, and Mike Bliss.
That 30 car on the pole for 2 restrictor plate races this year goes home on the 4th one.
Talladega has long been a track of surprises. Continued today. Our congratulations to Elliott Sadler, the butt pole winner for the EA Sports 500.